Imagine waking up one day to find your entire sect has vanished into thin air. What would you do? Having transmigrated into a world of cultivation, I had managed to join the Supreme Taiyi True Sect as a reserve disciple. On that day, I discovered the entire sect had disappeared without a trace. Suddenly, a system notification informed me that in 3 years, the world would face a great cataclysm, causing countless lives to perish like withered grass. Assuming the sect elders had caught wind of the disaster and fled beforehand, I immediately set out to loot their resources to increase my cultivation level. Little did I know, the entire sect had not disappeared at all. Due to an unforeseen accident, they had all been trapped within a secret realm hovering above the sect grounds, meaning the entirety of the Taiyi True Sect could observe my every move. They watched as I ransacked the treasury pavilion, drinking 8th grade spirit elixirs as if they were nothing more than water, and chewing on 9th grade medicinal pills like common candy, leaving the sect elders trembling with fury. They swore that this scoundrel could not be left alive. However, when they saw me breaking through cultivation realms in a single day, and even refining 9th grade medicinal pills with ease, the entire sect fell into a stunned silence, realizing that I was, in fact, the sect's only hope. Meanwhile, I was wandering aimlessly everywhere, discovering that the sect was completely devoid of life, standing there with a look of utter confusion. Good heavens! What in the world is happening? Just as I stood there in a daze, a cold, mechanical voice resonated in my mind. The strongest self-preservation system has been successfully bound. Detection. The host's world will experience a great cataclysm in 1024 days, resulting in the tragic deaths of countless living beings. Only by reaching the celestial venerable realm can one hope to secure a sliver of survival. This system will fully assist the host in surviving the coming great cataclysm. Upon hearing this, my mouth hung agape in shock, and I soon arrived at an even more absurd conclusion. It turned out they hadn't just gone missing. They had run away to save themselves. My heart was suddenly flooded with a myriad of emotions. If you wanted to flee, so be it, but why didn't you take me with you? Didn't you even consider me? I asked the system. What exactly are your functions? I should warn you, this body is not from the modern world, and its cultivation aptitude is abysmal. If you are relying on me, we are both doomed. The system immediately replied. Host. The primary function of this system is to assist in cultivation. It will provide step-by-step guidance, allowing the host to slowly ascend into a true powerhouse. An introductory guidance quest has been issued. Proceed to the sect's treasure pavilion to check in. This guidance quest possesses a relatively high difficulty. Upon completion, one shall receive a reward that increases their aptitude by 10,000 times. Hearing this, my entire body trembled with excitement. This system is truly generous. The reward is unimaginably immense. The treasure pavilion is historically a restricted area of the sect. As an outer sect disciple, I have absolutely no qualification to set foot there. However, the sect is currently devoid of life, without a single soul in sight. This mission poses no difficulty to me whatsoever. With that, I immediately set off. Meanwhile, in the infinite void above the Taiyi True Sect, all the disciples and high-ranking officials were trapped. This place is known as the Taiyi True Void. It is a place where sect disciples cultivate once every 10 years. During this heaven-sent opportunity, the sect elders led the disciples inside for training. Just as they prepared to depart, they discovered that the exit had suddenly sealed shut. The disciples remained with their eyes closed in meditation, unaware of what had transpired, while the sect elders turned deathly pale. Sect Master Chen Sheng spoke up to console his fellow brothers. The Taiyi True Void has been passed down for countless years. Perhaps it is merely a structural instability within the space. We shall wait for the Supreme Elders to repair it, and all will be resolved. Upon hearing this, everyone looked up toward the surrounding horizon. 3 elders were seated in the lotus position. They were working in unison to investigate the void. Each of them possessed heaven-defying divine power. As long as they remain in this secret realm, any issue regarding the exit will surely be resolved. The expressions of the sect elders softened significantly. At this moment, the sect master added, with the supreme elders present, let us also consider if there are any ingenious strategies to assist in our escape. Elder Shangguan of the Tianji Peak spoke first. I recall that not all disciples entered the secret realm. One person remains outside. 3 years ago, Saintess Chao entered the dragon-slaying cliff to undergo the nirvana seclusion, aiming to break through to the Purple Mansion realm. She had sent word that when the Taiyi True Void opened, there was no need to wait for her. Thus, she is currently the only one left within the sect. Hearing this, an elder of Tianji Peak nodded in satisfaction. By utilizing the mechanism that activates the True Void as a backup, the passage can also be opened from the outside. Once the Saintess emerges from her seclusion and finds the sect deserted, given her keen intellect, she will surely deduce that we are trapped in here. Upon hearing this, the elders' faces lit up with joy. But the master of Tianji Peak remained dejected. That may be true, but her seclusion lasts at least 5 years, and at most 10 years. This time, she is in the midst of a crucial breakthrough to the Foundation establishment realm. It is uncertain whether she will emerge even after 20 years. Hearing this, the smiles on the faces of the sect leadership vanished instantly. The sect master fell silent for a moment before sighing, "Forget it. Let us see what the situation is like down below." Perhaps the saintess has already emerged from her seclusion. He pressed 2 fingers together, casting a spell to render the spatial barrier transparent, allowing them to gaze upon the outside world. "Look, everyone. Why is there someone standing at the entrance of the outer peak?" Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes toward the direction he pointed. And indeed, they discovered a figure standing atop a mountain peak. He wore the attire of an outer sect reserve disciple, walking into the mission hall of the outer peak with his hands clasped behind his back before inserting his identity tablet into the unguarded Foundation monument, and began frantically pumping contribution points into his token. Witnessing this scene, the elder in charge of the mission hall roared in fury, "This is utterly absurd. How dare this brat take advantage of the sect's emptiness to blatantly steal contribution points like this? Does he have no shame at all?" The sect master displayed a look of cold disdain. "His character is so wretched that he is unworthy of my Taiyi true sect, though I have no knowledge of this person." Watching the contribution points on my tablet rise continuously, I felt immensely satisfied. Since the entire sect has abandoned this place, and I am the only one left, I am the master here. What could possibly be wrong with that? Even if the elders knew, they could not blame me. Meanwhile, directly above me, within the Taiyi True Void, the mission hall elder was cursing loudly. "He is more shameless than a fortress wall. He has already taken 100,000 points and still refuses to stop. This brat is truly a heartless piece of trash." The Taiyi sect master summoned the outer peak disciple, Wen Yan. "Wen Yan, do you recognize this person?" Wen Yan looked at the figure below, pondered for a moment, and then bowing his head, he addressed the sect leader and the elders. "This person is named Shi Qi. 6 months ago he crossed the vast forest sea to reach our sect, and I witnessed his iron-willed dedication to the Tao. Thus, in accordance with sect regulations, I admitted him." The sect leader waved his hand dismissively. "What dedication to the Tao? Observe his character, instead. He treats the sect as if it were his own garden, freely taking sect treasures for his personal use as if no one were watching. Within this secret realm, I cannot punish him. Once he exits, he shall report to the Hall of Law to receive 300 heavy strikes." Wen Yan bowed hastily and retreated with his head lowered. The peak master of Tianji Peak watched me from below, shaking his head repeatedly. Meanwhile, having amassed 1,000,000 contribution points in a single stroke, I shook my sect token with great satisfaction. This should sustain me for some time, I thought, as I dashed toward the plaza and used my token to activate a nearby flying shuttle. Within half an incense stick of time, I arrived at the Treasury Pavilion. The caretaker of the Treasury Pavilion took one look at my posture and knew I was aiming straight for the inner vault. He raised an eyebrow, thinking, "This lad isn't entirely stupid, but he certainly overestimates himself." In our sect's Treasury Pavilion, only the first floor is accessible through contribution points. All other levels require a display of innate talent. The most profound cultivation techniques and divine abilities are all housed on the higher floors. Back when the Saintess Qiao chose her technique, she relied on her all-encompassing Daiyou body to ascend directly to the 8th floor, matching the performance of the Saint Sun, Li Zhengyun. Yet this petty thief possesses such inferior aptitude. I fear that even the cultivation techniques on the first floor would prove to be a struggle for him to master. The elder's words were blunt, but they were rooted in truth. The Treasury Pavilion of Taiyi True Sect contains countless arrays, laws, and cultivation manuals. To ascend and acquire a technique, one must pass an examination of talent and law left behind by the founders, which precisely evaluates the practitioner's aptitude. No one had set foot on the 9th floor for 1,000,000 years. Just as the elders were lost in thought, I landed before the Treasury Pavilion. When I touched my token to the stone tablet at the entrance, 10,000 contribution points vanished instantly. At that very moment, the system's voice resonated in my ears. "Ding! The host has arrived at the Treasury Pavilion. Introductory mission complete. Distributing rewards." Now revealing the new initiation mission. Cultivate any one technique, bringing myself into the body refining realm. Upon completing the mission, I will receive a minor success technique voucher. After utilizing this voucher, a cultivation technique currently being practiced will reach the minor success stage within a single day. Hearing this, my expression shifted to one of bewilderment. The reward has already been issued? Why do I see absolutely nothing? Is this the 10,000-fold talent boost? System, you aren't deceiving me, are you? Seeing that the system offered no response, I decided to test it myself. I casually picked up a cultivation manual. To my surprise, a single glance was enough to grasp the entire content. Even the core principles of the technique, which were once difficult to comprehend, were instantly mastered. Having confirmed the situation, I rejoiced inwardly. The talent boost was indeed real. The cultivation techniques of the body refining realm are of utmost importance, for this is the stage where one lays their foundation. Now that my talent has increased 10,000-fold, I must naturally cultivate the very best. I no longer cast a single glance at the first-level techniques. At this moment, only one thought occupied my mind: to ascend to the higher floors. Meanwhile, within the Taiyi Zhen Shu, the elders were engaged in an endless critique. This fellow has entered the Golden Pavilion. To which floor do you think he can ascend? The elder of the preaching peak let out a cold snort. In my opinion, it is a pity the pavilion has no basement, or he would only be fit for the level below the ground. Hearing this, everyone burst into laughter. Just as they were still laughing, the figure on the first floor suddenly moved, instantly drawing the gaze of everyone present. What is he trying to do? Could he be intending to ascend to the second floor of the Golden Pavilion? This thief has already squandered the sect's contribution points. Now he covets high-grade techniques. His greed is truly bottomless. Let him dream. He will never be able to cross the staircase leading to the second floor in his entire lifetime. Indeed, it is absolutely impossible for him to ascend. However, before those words had even faded, the figure in the pavilion stepped onto the second floor with effortless grace. Those who had been so certain just moments ago, claiming I was only fit for the floor below the ground, fell silent. Seeing what was before them, their faces burned as if they had just been slapped, and they collectively shut their mouths in tacit agreement. Yet I was oblivious to the comedy unfolding above. Having ascended to the second floor, I casually flipped through a few manuals, only to find them quite mediocre. Even the best among them were merely of the profound grade. It seemed I would have to continue ascending. With this thought in mind, I continued to climb. As my figure shifted, the people above frowned, but before they could even voice their doubts, I had already set foot upon the third floor. Witnessing this scene, everyone became intrigued, and their previous prejudices began to dissipate. Sect Master Peng pondered silently. He was inherently a benevolent man. If this boy truly possessed such talent, his death sentence could be commuted, perhaps to be replaced by a period of harsh discipline and careful guidance. However, no sooner had that thought crossed his mind than he realized I was ascending continuously, reaching the sixth floor in one smooth motion. This sight left everyone in absolute shock. One must understand that many of the elders, in their own youth, could only reach the sixth floor. The elder of Tianji Peak looked toward the peak master of the Chuanggong Peak. Junior brother Shu Wuxuan. Is it possible that the laws governing your Tangjin Pavilion are malfunctioning? The peak master of Chuanggong Peak immediately shook his head. Impossible. The Tangjin Pavilion was personally constructed by our founder, the Taiyi Daozun. Unlike the Taiyi Zhengsu, which is currently being disturbed, it is certain that the laws within have not failed. Hearing this, the elder of Tianji Peak raised an eyebrow and asked in return, then how do you explain the fact that Shi Qi has ascended to the sixth floor? Faced with this question, the peak master of Chuanggong Peak was left speechless. After all, I have been cultivating for half a year without even touching the threshold of body refining. Yet here I was, climbing to the sixth floor of the Tangjin Pavilion, leaving everyone deeply perplexed. Everyone felt that if I truly possessed such aptitude, it would have been impossible to hide. With even a modicum of effort, I should have mastered the basic techniques. If I possessed a special physique, I might have even entered the path of cultivation automatically. The current situation was truly illogical, yet the sect master did not dwell on such matters. Witnessing this, he was moved by a desire to cherish such talent. With such natural gifts, one must be nurtured with great care. His future potential is undoubtedly immeasurable. Becoming a direct disciple was all but guaranteed. As for his unauthorized use of contribution points earlier, he was merely a mortal of low standing. It was only natural for him to be ignorant of our sect's existence. From the perspective of a mortal, when members of a sect suddenly vanish, everything left behind appears to be ownerless property. So taking a small amount for personal use is not entirely unreasonable. At this moment, the peak master of Chuanggong Peak stroked his beard and spoke. In my view, Shi Qi possesses a resilient nature, exhibiting the demeanor of a true gentleman. Even when faced with a suddenly emptied sect, he is truly a man of heroic spirit, possessing the composure of a still lake even while thunder rages within his heart. A sprout of such rare talent, if sculpted with care, he will surely become a new pillar for our sect in the future. I know you fellow brothers and sisters are occupied with your daily duties. So once I am freed from these troubles, I, Shu, wish to share the burden of the sect by taking Chu Thach Ky as my disciple and personally overseeing his cultivation. Hearing this, the core disciples could not hide their envy. After all, the Taiyi true sect possesses a vast multitude of disciples. Outer sect disciples essentially lack the standing to meet the master of the teaching peak, and only inner and core disciples are granted the honor of hearing his sermons once a month. Perhaps only the most elite core disciples have the opportunity to receive personal guidance from the peak master, yet even that remains a far cry from becoming his direct, personal disciple. Unlike the envious core disciples, the elders of the other peaks stared in disbelief. This old man's ability to flip his stance was truly unparalleled. At that moment, Liu Daoji, master of the Heavenly Craft Peak, stepped forward and turned to look at Shu Wuxuan, remarking, "Junior brother Shu, your eye for talent is impeccable. Though this humble senior brother is not exceptionally gifted, I can see that both the character and aptitude of this lad are of the highest order. With proper cultivation, his inclusion among the core disciples is merely a matter of time. However, Junior brother Shu, there is one point on which I must disagree. Look at how you have risked your life for the sect over these past years, bearing such immense toil, not to mention the daily labor of teaching countless disciples, all while frequently providing individual guidance to the core disciples. The hearts of men are made of flesh, after all. Though we fellow disciples may not say it aloud, we have all clearly witnessed your dedication. Now, while we still stand here, you insist on shouldering the entire burden of taking on disciples and teaching, effectively slapping us in the face. Therefore, regarding the matter of Chu Touch KY becoming your disciple today, this senior brother absolutely cannot agree. Junior brother Shu, you may rest easy and stand aside. As for the duty of lecturing and teaching this lad, your senior brother shall carry that burden for you." Liu Daoji unleashed a torrent of words. For the first half, Shu Wuxuan was moved to tears, but by the second half, he realized his peer was attempting to steal his prospective disciple. But he would never hand over such a treasure to another, so he immediately squeezed out a few tears of his own. "Senior brother Daoji, you have looked after me since I was young. Over these past thousands of years, I have received countless favors from you, and today, the time has come for me to repay them. It is not that your junior brother is stubborn, but your Heavenly Craft Peak is far too specialized. Which branch of weapon forging or artifact crafting does not require exceptional innate talent? Thatch KY only possesses good cultivation aptitude. Whether he would excel in weapon forging is far from certain. If he is a dullard in that field, wouldn't it simply waste more of your precious time to instruct him? Your Tiangong Peak is already overburdened. To add the task of teaching Shi Qi now, are you trying to work yourself to death? Therefore, regarding the matter of Xinyao Qi becoming a disciple, I, your junior brother, cannot simply turn a blind eye." Liu Daoji grasped the subtext hidden within these words, and his heart immediately ignited with fury. "Very well, Shu Wuxuan. To snatch a disciple from me, you have truly cast aside all shame." Just as he prepared to sharpen his tongue for further argument, a woman's voice interjected. "Two junior brothers, why must you squabble over such a trivial matter? Do not allow this to damage our harmony." Everyone turned their heads toward the source of the voice, and saw a beautiful woman in purple Taoist robes approaching. It was none other than the master of Tongjian Peak, renowned for her lethality, Yu Xiao. Liu Daoji and Shu Wuxuan respectfully cupped their hands and bowed to her. Witnessing this, the supreme elders inwardly sighed in relief. As expected, junior sister Yu remains the most sensible among them. She had intervened at a critical moment to stop these two old men, or else, in front of so many disciples, their dignity would have been utterly forfeit. He was rejoicing at this thought, but in the very next second he heard Yu Xiao smile kindly at the two of them. "How about you? Let me take Shi Qi back to Tangjian Peak. It just so happens that I have been looking to take on a personal disciple, and I have been troubled by the lack of a suitable candidate." As these words fell, the sect master's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. The two elders stood frozen in their tracks, seeing that the eldest senior sister had also joined the fray to poach the disciple. Seeing this, many other elders began to feel their interest stirred. The other elite disciples began to whisper and murmur amongst themselves. Even Elder Yu wants to take Shi Qi as her personal disciple? Heavens! There are already 3 elders fighting over him, and the others are starting to stir. Is Shi Qi truly that exceptional? I am green with envy. Tangjian Peak is the premier combat peak of our sect. Who in the Central Province Sacred Realm has not heard of the name Tangjian? Clearly I also possess the aptitude to reach the 6th floor of the Golden Pavilion, so why was I not chosen as a personal disciple by Elder Yu? It is not merely a matter of fate, but of timing. One can only say that Shi Qi is incredibly fortunate. Indeed, today, everyone is trapped within this secret realm, and they have been forced to focus their attention on him. At a moment like this, even the slightest movement is amplified infinitely, making it easy to capture the attention of Elder Yu. As for the elders, one could see Shu Wuxuan and Liu Daoji grow quiet, frantically exchanging signals with their eyes. "You go ahead." But despite their constant winking, neither dared to challenge the eldest senior sister. Just as the two were caught in a stalemate, the other elders contemplated whether they should intervene. Suddenly, an inner sect deacon arrived to report that the other disciples within the secret realm were in an uproar because they could not depart. The sect master pondered for a moment before deciding to clarify the situation to everyone. He even rendered the walls of the secret realm transparent, allowing all the disciples to witness the movements outside, thereby diverting their attention. Beneath the gaze of thousands, the figure standing on the 6th floor, having finished reading several secret manuals, finally began to move. He merely shook his head, seemingly dissatisfied with the techniques on this level, then looked up at the staircase leading to the 7th floor and stepped forward. Witnessing this scene, everyone at Taiyi Sect was instantly in an uproar, for the 6th and 7th floors of the Golden Pavilion demanded a level of innate talent that surpassed the sect's historical records. Among the many peak masters and elders present, the majority only possessed the aptitude to set foot on the 6th floor of the Golden Pavilion. Only the Taiyi Sect Master and Peak Master Yu Xiao of the Sword Pavilion were capable of entering the 7th floor, and everyone had confirmed that he was a mere mortal with no special constitution. In the history of the sect, there has never been a record of a mortal ascending to the 7th floor. At this moment, Peak Master Shangguan Kun of the Heavenly Secret Peak recovered his senses. Shi Qi is entering the Golden Pavilion for the first time. He likely wants to test his limits and will surely retreat once he realizes the difficulty. Hearing this, the others nodded in unison. Not long after, Shangguan Kun wore an, as I expected, expression as Shi Qi reached the middle of the stairs. If I am not mistaken, he must be struggling to endure the pressure right now. Even taking another step must be a challenge. The others chimed in, agreeing with their fellow disciple, while at the same time, I was walking up the middle of the Golden Pavilion stairs, secretly cursing in my heart. Who on earth designed this staircase? To have 80 steps just to get from the 6th to the 7th floor? No wonder a 200-meter tall building only has 9 levels. It turns out they crammed so many stairs in the middle. The person who built this truly had something wrong with their head. Yet when the Taiyi Dao Venerable built this tower, it was originally designed for cultivators at the body-tempering realm. He never expected a mortal to reach such a height. I rested briefly before continuing the climb. At this point, I was still 7 steps from the 7th floor, unaware that my actions had left the elders above stunned once again. The Peak Master of Heavenly Secret Peak blushed and coughed a few times. It seems Shi Qi is more tenacious than we thought, but reaching the 7th floor remains an impossibility. Since ancient times, there has never been such a precedent in the sect. According to my estimations, the pressure on— look at him panting heavily. It is likely that not only are his tendons and bones under immense strain, but his internal organs are also racked with agonizing pain. He will certainly be unable to move a muscle from this point forward. Hearing the elder's firm judgment, the other elders rushed to echo his sentiments. Junior brother Shangguan, your eyes are as sharp as torches. I too believe this young man has reached his absolute limit. Although Shi Qi cannot ascend to the 7th level, his mortal constitution makes him a peerless prodigy, even in the Central Plains. Just as the elders were confidently debating, a core disciple suddenly exclaimed, Shi Qi is moving! Hearing this, they all collectively lowered their heads to look. They saw me stride forward as if taking flight, my silhouette flashing straight to the top of the stairs, setting foot upon the 7th level of the Tibetan Gold Pavilion. Silence descended instantly upon the scene. After a long moment, not one of them could maintain their composure. Yun Xiao's resolve to take me, as his disciple grew even more steadfast. The Taiyi Sect Master was visibly exhilarated. A mortal constitution had actually managed to reach the 7th level. This feat defies an age-old precedent, and bestows our sect with another supreme prodigy, one worthy of being ranked among our top core disciples. My junior brothers, cease your bickering until we have overcome our current predicament. Shi Qi shall join my sect. I will instruct him personally. Hearing the sect master's decree, the elders felt a sense of indignation. How can this be? Is the sect master actually stooping so low as to poach a disciple? The Taiyi sect possesses an unspoken rule. Apart from the Holy Son and Holy Daughter, the sect master is not permitted to take on additional disciples. One reason is that the sect master is occupied with official duties and lacks the time to instruct them. The second is the fear that a disciple of the sect master, other than the 2 holy ones, might harbor ulterior motives, thereby threatening the inheritance of the sect. Yet the Taiyi sect master was now willing to break the rules to take Shi Qi as his student. Many elders, though shocked, understood in their hearts. After all, Shi Qi had shattered the limitations of a mortal constitution, and his future potential was truly immeasurable. Upon hearing this, Yu Xiao glared at the Taiyi sect master in anger. The Taiyi sect master felt the heat of that glare and became flustered. He knew his position as sect master was highly sensitive, and having overstepped his bounds in this argument, he dared not meet Yun Xiao's gaze. Ultimately, it was Shangguan Kun who stepped forward to dissuade him. Senior brother sect master, please reconsider. There is no precedent in our sect for a sect master to take on a personal disciple. If you set this precedent, where will that leave the Holy Son and Holy Maiden? As soon as these words were spoken, the other elders immediately chimed in to support him. Just as everyone was clamoring to dissuade him, Taiyi sect master Peng Tianyang spoke decisively. There is no need for you all to worry. Once I have accepted Shi Qi as my disciple, I will entrust the full authority of the sect master to senior sister Yu. As his voice fell, a dead silence descended upon the hall. Yu Xiao looked at him, her expression laced with mockery. Sect master Peng, are you attempting to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Hearing this, The others were somewhat confused, but a tremor went through the heart of the Taiyi sect master. He had not expected his self-serving scheme to be seen through so instantly by Yu Xiao. In years past, the two of them were the Holy Son and Holy Maiden. When they were set to compete for the position of sect master, Yu Xiao had voluntarily relinquished her claim. The position of sect master was inherited by him, but Peng Tianyang had served for 300 years, his cultivation stagnating due to being bogged down by trivial sect affairs. He had long grown weary of the sect master's seat and intended to use the pretext of taking on a disciple to step down. Regrettably, this small scheme of his could not escape the sharp eyes of senior sister Yu Xiao. The other elders listened, as if lost in a thick fog. But to the disciples witnessing this scene, it appeared that the sect master was so desperate to recruit Shi Qi that he was willing to abandon the throne itself. The rumors spreading to the outer sect were becoming increasingly absurd. The outer sect deacons began to intervene, yet they too were plagued by doubt. Why would the sect master proactively offer to resign? Could it truly be for the sake of Shi Qi? Thinking of this, everyone looked downward, their gazes falling upon the 7th floor of the scripture pavilion, where I stood with my hands behind my back, examining the jade slip before me in front of the bookshelf. Cultivation techniques on the 7th floor of the scripture pavilion, from the earth rank intermediate grade and above, were stored in jade slips rather than books. Disciples were required to follow the regulations, allowed to choose only one technique to study at a time. Beside each jade slip was a golden paper containing its description. Since there was no one guarding the pavilion, I did not need to adhere to these rules, yet these earth-ranked techniques did not catch my eye. After all, since my talent had increased 10,000-fold, the ceiling of my aptitude had reached an extreme height. Furthermore, with the great cataclysm of heaven and earth arriving in 3 years, I must reach the heavenly venerable realm to have any hope of survival. A mere earth-grade cultivation manual is hardly enough to satisfy my requirements. After examining the jade slip before me, I could not help but sigh. Reflecting on the half year since I transmigrated to this world, where I remain a mere reserved disciple of the outer sect, my status is pitiably low. That outer sect deacon never even saw fit to explain the cultivation realms to me. Consequently, I had no understanding of what these cultivation stages truly represented, nor did I possess any concept of the world I now inhabit. Having toured the scripture pavilion, I am astounded to discover that this is a world where the martial Tao reaches heaven-defying heights. The human race, relying on indomitable will and the constant exploration of the body, has established 5 systems of cultivation, becoming the masters of this world. The Tao is divided into 3 major stages, with near impenetrable shackles existing between each stage. The first stage is the crucial foundation for a mortal to transcend their limitations. The body refining realm is the very cornerstone. Only after reaching the peak of the second stage can one attempt to break through the shackles of the Tao-setting realm. A powerhouse of the Tao-setting realm can possess a lifespan rivaling heaven and earth, while a heavenly venerate is a rare, heaven-gifted prodigy of this world. As I recalled the knowledge I had gathered from the texts, my heart trembled with shock, and I finally understood how absurd the requirements set by the system truly were. However, the most urgent matter remains choosing a suitable body-refining technique to enter the body-refining realm. Since the Taiyi true sect has already faded into obscurity, if I am to cultivate, I must cultivate only the absolute best. With this thought in mind, I lifted my feet and continued to ascend the floors. Perhaps driven by my obsession with a supreme cultivation technique, I climbed all the way to the 8th floor in one breath. The space on the 8th floor remains vast, yet the number of jade slips on display is noticeably fewer. I immediately set to work researching if there were any techniques worthy of cultivation, unaware that my actions had once again caused an uproar throughout the entire sect within the secret realm. Heavens! Am I seeing things? Has Shi Qi actually reached the 8th floor? Is senior brother Shi human or divine? A mere mortal body, yet he has marched straight into the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion. If not for the divine ability to peer into the lower realms manifested by the sect master, I would truly suspect that someone had cast a veil over my eyes. It is no wonder the sect master would willingly forfeit his position just to take Shi Qi as his disciple. Before, I thought the sect master was being impulsive, but looking back now, it is clear that I was the one who was shallow. He truly has the potential to rival the Holy Son. The disciples continued to clamor incessantly, and even the deacons and elders were. Only the Holy Son felt his vision darken. If both he and Xinji possessed the cultivation talent to ascend to the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion, then the position of Holy Son would surely have to be reevaluated. However, just as this thought crossed his mind, he reasoned that while Xinji's talent was indeed formidable, he was ultimately too green, and had yet to even step onto the path of cultivation. Meanwhile, he had already reached the peak of the Duan Shen realm. That was his advantage, not to mention his seniority, his connections, and his backing. Why would the position of Holy Son ever fall to Shi Qi? Furthermore, Xinji's only advantage was that peculiar mortal body, whereas his own Tai Yin saint body was unfathomably powerful. Because it followed a path few dared to tread, the corresponding cultivation techniques were exceptionally rare. He had joined the Taiyi True Sect for its deep foundation, eventually discovering a heaven-grade, low-tier cultivation manual on the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion, which perfectly suited him. The Earth Nether Serpent Guiding Manual. Yet, after practicing this technique, he realized it was merely a derivative, simplified replacement, deduced from the heaven-grade top-tier Qing Ming Dragon transformation art, the original version of which resided on the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion. Although he was destined to have no affinity with that supreme art, Shi Qi was in the same position, having only reached the 8th floor. Furthermore, being 3 realms behind him, there was no way he could fundamentally threaten his status. Li Zhengyun, the Holy Sun, having reasoned all of this out, regained his confidence and adopted an air of profound inscrutability. He swept his gaze across the sect scene below, noticing that I was currently inspecting the cultivation manuals on this floor. These jade slips were all radiating a faint, fluorescent glow, and I could not help but recall the secret information I had just learned on the level below. Heaven-grade cultivation techniques are not only wondrous in their own right, but are also one of a kind in this world. Legend states that when a cultivation technique comes into existence, it carries a trace of its creator's will. Hidden deep within the jade slip, it develops a spirit after long periods of preservation. Top-tier cultivation techniques may even choose their own suitable masters, and the scene before my eyes was the very manifestation of that jade slip's inner spirit. I wandered around for a while until a glowing jade slip caught my eye, so I picked it up to examine it closely. The Earth Nether Guidance Manual is truly not bad. Unfortunately, I have no interest in divine cultivation techniques. With that said, I casually tossed it aside. Little did I know, this single action caused the Saint Sun's eyelids to twitch in fury. The technique he took such immense pride in. In the eyes of this mortal-bodied youth, it was not worth a single cent. No matter how well he maintained his composure, he was momentarily breathless, left only to curse in his heart. This bumpkin of humble origins is truly blind. He even looks down on the Earth Nether Guidance Manual. I, the Saint Sun, would like to see, in the end, what kind of technique will you choose? Meanwhile, I was strolling through the 8th floor with my hands clasped behind my back. The 8th floor held no technique that suited my fancy. However, several books of travelogues and miscellaneous records piqued my interest. These books not only recorded basic information about this world, but also described many major powers. Although they would not help me increase my cultivation level, they were at least good for broadening my horizons. Having finished those, I stepped toward the staircase. The best techniques must surely be on the highest floor. That is where the true foundation lies. Given the countless years of heritage accumulated by the Taiyi sect, thinking of this, I quickened my pace and stepped lightly toward the upper floor, never expecting that this action would leave the people observing me from the sky canopy utterly stunned. How is he still continuing to ascend? How could this be? Could it be that I am hallucinating? Shi Qi actually wants to go to the 9th floor. This fellow is even taking 2 steps at a time. Ancestral masters above. Has the inspection formation of the scripture pavilion truly malfunctioned? 1 million years ago, our sect once had a peerless genius who relied on the chaos divine body to reach the peak of the 9th floor. Shi Qi is merely a mortal. Does he actually dare to dream of climbing to the very summit? After a moment of commotion, the entire sect fell into a deathly silence, all eyes fixed upon the figure ascending the stairs. Even the 3 supreme elders, who were preoccupied with exploring the chaos, could not help but divert a fraction of their consciousness to look down. Under the gaze of the entire sect, I stepped lightly onto the 9th floor. Almost simultaneously, the entire Taiyi sect erupted in a deafening roar. He made it. A mortal body has truly ascended to the highest floor of the scripture pavilion. Such an event happens perhaps once in a million years, yet we are witnessing it with our own eyes. This Shi Qi truly cannot be measured by conventional wisdom. I fear that once Shi Qi escapes his plight, he will ascend to the heavens in a single stride, becoming the most precious treasure in the eyes of every elder. It is enough to make one green with envy. Just as everyone was heaping endless praise upon me, Shu Wuxuan, master of the transmission peak, stepped forward with a grim expression and bowed towards Sect Master Peng. "Forgive my impudence, Sect Master," he began. "A low-ranking elder from my peak has just sent word, confessing that several weeks ago, the defensive formation of the Golden Repository temporarily faltered, and after reporting it, he embezzled the supreme-grade spirit stones intended for repairs, replacing them with inferior ones instead. I fear the very formation used to test talent within the Golden Repository has truly lost its efficacy." As these words left his lips, the scene fell into a deathly silence. Every elder stared at Zhu Wuxuan in utter astonishment, until the elder of Tiangong Peak could no longer contain his rebuttal. "Brother, do not speak such nonsense. The formation of the Golden Repository was personally inscribed by our founding patriarch himself. It contains a sliver of his own law-based power. How could it lose its efficacy so easily? Upon hearing this, Shu Wuxian cupped his hands toward the heavens. I would never dare to cast doubt upon our founding patriarch. But time is ruthless. No matter how powerful a divine object may be, it cannot overcome the erosion of ages. Is there anything in this world that can truly claim to be eternal and indestructible? The Golden Repository has stood for 10,000 years. It is difficult to guarantee that the formation's laws remain as potent as they once were. Perhaps a few spirit stones at the critical junctions have indeed caused the testing performance to wane. Listening to their exchange, the others began to collect their thoughts. After all, Shi Qi had joined the sect for half a year without even completing body refinement. Yet in the Golden Repository, he had reached the 9th floor, continuously shattering the limitations of a mortal constitution. If the Golden Repository's testing formation truly had flaws, then everything could be explained. Hearing this, the Holy Son felt his composure return at once. It turned out to be nothing more than a simple misunderstanding. As his Taiyin holy body remained the pinnacle of the current era, the sect master coldly demanded retribution for the culprit. Have that low-ranking elder dragged to the law enforcement hall to face judgment. Just as everyone felt uneasy over the awkwardness of this misunderstanding, Yun Zhao suddenly smiled and looked toward the sect master. Sect master, it seems you no longer intend to take Shi Qi as your disciple. If you have changed your mind, then the right— As these words were spoken, everyone stood frozen in silence. Not long after, the sect master of Tai suddenly had a realization. Shi Qi's talent could not possibly be a fabrication. Hearing this, Shu Wuxian quickly pressed on. Sect master, are you certain the testing formation was not faulty? The sect master let out a long sigh. I cannot be entirely certain. However, today we have surely been blinded by our own perceptions. To judge a person's true talent, one does not fundamentally need to rely on the testing formation of the treasure pavilion. The reactions of the jade slips on the 7th and 8th floors remain the most undeniable evidence. These words struck the crowd like a thunderclap from a clear sky. The others subconsciously recalled the moment I stepped onto the 8th floor, where every jade slip had shone with brilliant radiance. That was the heaven-grade cultivation techniques, acknowledging my presence. Having realized this, the elders immediately shifted their tone. Heaven bless our sect. It is fortunate that this was merely a misunderstanding. I had seen it long ago. Shi Qi possesses the demeanor of an peerless prodigy. He is clearly the real deal. Shi Qi is destined to be the supreme unicorn of the Tai True Sect. Witnessing this scene, the inner disciples watching the spectacle could only twitch their lips, their hearts filled with deep exasperation. One moment it is fake, the next it is real. Are you all playing a game? Can you not provide a single, definitive answer? As for me, the one being hailed as the unicorn son, I began to calmly survey my surroundings the moment I ascended to the 9th floor. The 9th floor of the treasure pavilion contained no bookshelves or miscellaneous texts. There were only a few dozen jade slips hovering in mid-air. The moment I took my first step, the jade slips collectively descended, then burst into brilliant light, vying with one another to orbit around me. This sight left the observing elders wide-eyed and speechless. It appears the saying that cultivation techniques actively choose their masters is no empty boast. The Saint's son caught sight of the Qingming Dragon Transformation Manual at a glance, yet it followed behind me like a small, obedient tail. However, I did not spare it even a single glance. This sight caused the Saint's son to grit his teeth in intense frustration. The Tai sect master could not help but lament inwardly. So this is the mortal vessel with infinite potential. His future is truly immeasurable. In his shock, the sect master felt as though he were witnessing the rise of a legendary prodigy, and various training plans began to form in his mind. Thinking of this, the sect master took a step forward and bowed deeply toward the Tai void. I report to the 3 supreme elders. This Shi Qi possesses astonishing talent. I intend to place him on the list of sect successors, granting him a status that surpasses even the Saint Son and Saintess. And once we have escaped this plight, we shall spare no resources in his cultivation. As these words rang out, the entire assembly was left in a state of absolute shock. The elders sighed one after another. The sect master had truly made this choice. The sect ranking list was a training system from the chaos of the ancient era, designed to place disciples with potential onto a list, forcing them to contend against one another, until the ultimate victor stood at the pinnacle, rising above all other disciples to command the resources of the entire sect. Once times of peace arrived, the system was replaced by the more moderate dual saint system, due to its excessive brutality. Now that the sect master has restarted the list, it is clear he views Shi Qi as the successor to the sect. Hearing this, the Holy Son grew visibly tense, yet the 3 supreme elders did not immediately respond, seemingly deliberating among themselves, as everyone waited for their decision. But at this very moment, a commotion erupted from the periphery. The elders swept their divine sense across the area, only to find that Shi Qi was making a new move. At that moment, he was preparing to select a cultivation manual. Suddenly, the system's voice resonated in my mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching the highest floor of the Sect's golden pavilion, breaking the limits of the mortal body, and triggering a supplementary guidance mission, rewarding you with one single-use fusion voucher. Upon hearing this, I was stunned, but after a brief investigation, I understood the function of this fusion voucher. It could fuse multiple cultivation techniques to advance them, but the success rate would decrease as the grade of the techniques increased. Furthermore, every heaven-grade technique in this world exists as a unique copy. To refine them, one must destroy the original jade slip, and should the fusion fail, the record of that technique would be lost forever. Moreover, reaching perfection in one's cultivation is no simple task, so refining heaven-grade techniques is considered a grave crime, an act that severs the heritage of the martial path. Thinking of this, I hesitated. At that moment, the system immediately replied, "Host, please trust in the capability of this system. Everything is done to assist you in surviving the great calamity in 10-24 days. Time is already running short for you. If you only cultivate high-grade heaven-rank manuals, even with 10,000 times the natural talent, reaching the heaven-venerate realm in such a short period is an impossible feat. You must create the most powerful technique in the world, surpassing even high-grade heaven-rank manuals, to have a chance at saving yourself." Upon hearing this, my heart began to beat wildly. If the system has already paved the path for me, what reason do I have to hesitate? I then followed the fusion method I had studied on the second floor of the Golden Pavilion and began to execute the technique. The very next second, every heaven-grade cultivation jade slip on this floor surged into the vortex of white energy before me. The system's notification rang in my ears. Single-use fusion voucher successfully consumed. Little did I know that at this moment, within the Tai void, all the elders were glaring at me in fury, and the sect master's eyes were brimming with murderous intent. Shi Qi has severed our Tai legacy. Such a crime is unforgivable and warrants execution. Then, Elder Yu of the Xingli Peak stepped forward, reporting to the sect master, "I suspect this Shi Qi is likely a spy dispatched by a rival faction. Otherwise, how would he dare commit such an atrocity as to sever our sect's heritage?" At this, the elder of the Baikao Peak also chimed in with a cold voice. "Whether he is a spy or simply a fool is irrelevant. The act of him destroying our sect's inheritance has already come to pass. If we do not grind his bones into dust, how can we silence the criticism of the world?" Hearing this, Yunxiao sighed softly, feeling a touch of regret in his heart. To fuse 37 heaven-grade cultivation manuals into one, the success rate for such a feat is effectively zero. It seems this #1 genius of mortal origins truly has no chance to turn the tide. The inner and outer sect disciples were also angrily condemning him, for he had refined all the high-quality heaven-grade techniques from the treasure pavilion. How could he dare? Though the Tai True Sect is not the imperial court, it is still a unified entity. He entered the sect to study and cultivate. If he is not grateful to the sect, he should at least refrain from adding insult to injury. It is a waste. I thought Shi Qi was a prominent figure and admired him greatly, but now I realize I was blind. Shi Qi is an eternal sinner of the cultivation world. Meanwhile, the Holy Son heard the curses ringing in his ears, his expression flickering with confusion. What is happening? Only a moment ago, Shi Qi had a boundless future and was handpicked by the sect master, so why has he suddenly become a rat crossing the street, while he himself has done nothing? Yet from a completely lost position, the situation has reversed in his favor. Thinking of this, the Holy Son's lips curled into a smirk, but just as he intended to regain his composure, he suddenly recalled how many times he had been spectacularly outplayed before. Could this time be yet another feint? Thus, he became exceedingly cautious, deciding to observe for a while longer. He first looked at the situation below the sect, only to see Shi Qi with his hands held loosely, still executing his refinement technique. More than half of the 37 technique jade slips had already been refined. The Holy Son breathed a silent sigh of relief, and immediately afterward he looked toward the sect master. He saw that at this very moment, a gargantuan face made of spiritual energy was vaguely manifesting in the sky above, its overwhelming aura pressing down and suppressing, rendering the sect master's figure infinitesimal by comparison. The next instant, the colossal face emitted a sound, a single, chilling command. Kill. It seemed the Grand Elder had truly been provoked to wrath. Shi Qi was surely doomed, but just as he was rejoicing in secret, a radiant lotus of spiritual energy suddenly erupted atop the scripture pavilion, followed by endless brilliance that pierced the clouds and descended from the heavens, layers of auspicious omens enveloping the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion. Witnessing this sight, the entire Tai sect stood frozen in utter shock. The sect master stared blankly at the figure below. Merely a mortal child. Yet he had successfully refined 37 heaven-grade supreme techniques. Just as he remained lost in a daze, a steady, calm voice resonated through the air. When a divine technique manifests, it is only natural for miraculous phenomena to occur. Much like when one refines a ninth-rank sacred pill, or forges an unparalleled divine weapon, the heavenly Tao will show favor, bestowing auspicious signs and myriad manifestations of spiritual energy to celebrate the success. He looked up and watched as the colossal face in the sky transformed into streams of light, descending in the blink of an eye to reveal a white-haired figure. This person was none other than the Grand Elder. Sect Master Peng hurriedly cupped his hands to pay respects to Elder Lan. Elder Lan waved his hand dismissively, signaling the sect master to forego the formalities. His gaze then shifted downward. This child is truly miraculous. He clearly possesses no cultivation base, and has never practiced any techniques before. Yet among the 37 heaven-grade supreme techniques, he has mastered every single one of them. And even before the refinement was fully completed, he had already stirred the heavens and earth to manifest these auspicious signs. Does such an unparalleled genius truly exist in this world? Hearing these words, the sect master's heart stirred as he whispered, "Could this child be the reincarnation of an ancient powerhouse? Or has an old monster taken possession of his body?" Lan Zhong pondered for a moment before shaking his head. Impossible. Once the Tao is established, as long as the Tao remains, the soul persists. If his Tao foundation were still intact, why would he resort to possession? Conversely, if the Tao has withered, and the spirit dissipated, there would be no chance for reincarnation or possession. Extraordinary people lead to extraordinary events. There is no need for such excessive astonishment. Hearing the conversation between the two, the elders and disciples were left trembling in shock. This Shi Qi was truly formidable. Despite having committed a grave crime worthy of death, who would have thought he would actually succeed in executing the technique of fusion? Even the Supreme Elder himself descended to witness the event, personally verifying that the youth was neither an ancient monster possessing a mortal shell, nor a reincarnated powerhouse, but had successfully completed the refinement solely through his own martial talent. Such an extraordinary feat was, to the highest degree, beyond belief. At that very moment, Elder Yu of Xinglifeng spoke up. "Dare I ask, Supreme Elder, does the order to execute Shi Qi still stand?" Hearing this, the sect master furrowed his brows and barked in anger. "Elder Yu, cease your foolishness. Shi Qi is the peerless genius of our Taiyi Zhen men and the hope for our future. When did the Supreme Elder ever say he wanted him killed?" Upon hearing these words, Elder Yu's entire body went rigid. He opened his mouth as if to retort, but Elder Shangguan, standing beside him, pulled frantically at his sleeve. He was forced to shrink back in embarrassment, casting a cautious glance toward the Supreme Elder, only to see that Lan Zhong remained as composed as ever. He did not spare the elders another look, but instead kept his eyes fixed upon the developments at the Golden Pavilion. As the refinement of the techniques concluded, a brand new jade slip manifested within the white mist before Shi Qi's chest. A look of solemnity flickered across the elder's face before his voice resonated throughout the Taiyi Zhen Shu. Outer Sect reserve disciple Shi Qi, of upright character and peerless talent, has become the only disciple in 1,000,000 years to successfully reach the 9th level of the Golden Pavilion. Therefore, I hereby grant him honorary status, with a position surpassing the dual saints, ranking above all outer, inner, and core disciples. This decree takes effect the moment he exits the secret realm. As these words echoed, all the inner and outer disciples were left standing in stunned silence. After a brief, chilling stillness, the Taiyi Zhenshu erupted into a deafening roar of commotion. "I am truly damned. I actually dared to doubt that Shi Qi could refine 37 heavenly grade superior manuals. Tell me, in all of history, has anyone else ever achieved such a magnificent feat? Senior Brother Shi is truly something else, catching us all off guard and nearly frightening us to death, sacrificing all the techniques on the highest level of the Golden Pavilion for a single opportunity to refine a new manual. One cannot strictly call it a loss, for the significance is immense. The first technique in history to transcend the heavenly grade superior level has been birthed right here in our Taiyi Zhen men. Tens of thousands of disciples shifted their attitudes in the blink of an eye, and my own reputation skyrocketed. At this moment, I looked with delight at the jade slip hovering before me. The refinement was a success. That single-use fusion ticket is truly overpowered. While casting the technique just now, I felt as if I had truly mastered all 37 of those manuals. With the system supporting me, this heavenly grade pinnacle technique was successfully brought into this world. It synthesized the essence of 37 heaven-rank superior cultivation manuals, vast and all-encompassing, yet it was only suited for mortals, and demanded extremely high innate talent, which is why I was the only one in the sect capable of cultivating it. Once the anomalous vision dissipated, I stepped forward and grasped the jade slip in my hand, then sighed softly. Truly, plans can never keep pace with change. I had originally intended to find a technique suitable for the body tempering stage to practice temporarily, yet unexpectedly, I triggered the long-standing reward, fusing together this systemic cultivation technique. At first, I did not hold much regard for systemic techniques that could be cultivated across multiple realms, as I felt the power increment provided by such techniques was rather mediocre. Thus, my initial plan was to switch to a specialized technique for each cultivation realm I reached. But the peerless heaven-ranked divine art I had synthesized, despite being a systemic technique, could encompass every realm, having used those 37 heaven-ranked superior manuals as its foundation. The cultivation efficiency at every stage was pushed to its absolute limit, not in the least inferior to techniques specialized for a single realm. Taking the body tempering stage as an example, this new technique has absorbed the quintessence of the great sun melting furnace body. This manual was originally a divine art specifically for body tempering. If my predictions are correct, the strength of a single arm at the first layer of body tempering will likely exceed 10,000 jin. Once I step into the higher layers of the body tempering realm, my physical form will undoubtedly reach a terrifying level. Thinking of this, I grew excited and prepared to receive the technique's information. Suddenly, I noticed the jade slip emitting streams of fluorescent light in response to my movements, connecting directly to my sea of consciousness. After receiving the first piece of information from the jade slip, I could not help but laugh. It was prompting me to name it. I stroked my chin and pondered for a moment, since it was formed from the fusion of many different techniques, gathering the strengths of 100 schools into one body, converging all virtues into a supreme divine art. And as the saying goes, the Wuji gives birth to the Taiji, let it be called the Wuji Dao Treasury. As soon as the words left my lips, a celestial phenomenon descended once more. Immediately after, the jade slip shone brilliantly, and the 4 characters Wuji Dao Treasury manifested upon it. Seeing this, I nodded in satisfaction, immediately grabbed the jade slip, and pressed it against my forehead. Guided by the faint spiritual intelligence within the jade, the entire content of the Wuji Dao Treasury flowed into my sea of consciousness. A moment later, having finished absorbing all the information, I suddenly opened my eyes, exclaiming in astonishment, "This technique is truly heaven-defying, for it possesses no biased elemental affinity, capable of perfectly resolving conflicts between disparate elemental forces within the body. Second, it has no cultivation bottlenecks. The technique operates autonomously, never ceasing its refinement for a single moment, while simultaneously optimizing the flow of the great heavenly cycle. Third, it has no supernatural weaknesses, allowing for the arbitrary combination of supernatural traits. Whether in offense, defense, or movement, one can deduce endless variations from a single principle. Beyond these 3 characteristics, it also evolves 3 exclusive divine abilities: myriad laws convergence, manifestation of the great image, and the true vision of the Dayo. As I recalled the introduction to the Wuji Dao Treasury within my mind, my eyes burned with intense fervor. Yet before long, I shook my head. It is a pity that these 3 divine abilities are still far beyond my reach. They can only be practiced after transcending the nirvana bones. The most pressing matter at hand is to enter the body tempering realm. Having said this, I immediately assumed a stance on the spot and began my training. With every breath, I felt the spiritual energy within my body circulating repeatedly along my meridians. The muscles throughout my entire body tensed, and my bones occasionally emitted rhythmic, cracking sounds. Just as I focused on my cultivation, the elders of the Taiyi Zhengsu had finally regained their composure. The supreme elder Lanzhong also vanished into the air, returning to continue inspecting the exit of the secret realm. At this moment, Zhu Wuxuan, master of the transmission peak, spoke up. Judging by the name, Shi Qi has named this technique quite well. It carries the bearing of a supreme divine art and shows great taste. Everyone was already accustomed to his constant shifts in tone, so they did not bother to argue. Liu Daoji, elder of the Tiangong Peak, nodded in agreement. Shi Qi possesses peerless talent, and now that he practices the legendary Wuji Dao Treasury, I wonder if he can shorten the time required to enter the body tempering realm to within 3 days. Hearing this, the elders all took an enthusiastic interest in the discussion. Achieving body tempering in 3 days is considered a top-tier feat, even throughout the entire world of immortality. Not only that, throughout history, those who achieve body tempering within 10 days number fewer than 100, and those who did it within 5 days are fewer than 10. As for those who achieved it within 3 days, there has only been one. Are you not referring to the peerless genius who emerged from the East Pole Great Wilderness 2 million years ago? It is a pity that while he suppressed his entire generation, reaching the peak of the divine path, he ultimately failed when attempting to breach the return to truth bone refinement, and perished under the great Tao heavenly tribulation. Tragic and regrettable. At this moment, Shengguan Kun of the Tianji Peak spoke up to ask, in these past few years, the best record in our sect still belongs to the current Holy Son and Holy Lady, does it not? Xu Wuxuan nodded in reflection, recalling that when the Saint Son first entered the Tao, it took him over 8 days to reach the body-tempering realm. The Saintess, blessed with a unique physique, required only 6 days. At this, he turned his gaze toward the Saint Son, Li Zhengyun. Zhengyun, how much time do you believe junior brother Shi requires to achieve body tempering? As the words left his lips, every eye turned toward the Saint Son. The Saint Son hesitated for a long moment before responding. Junior brother Shi possesses peerless talent. This disciple dares not speculate recklessly. However, the path of martial arts values insight just as much as innate talent. Junior brother Shi is cultivating a heaven-grade supreme manual, which demands even greater insight. Thus, the time required for contemplation will be longer. Therefore, it would be perfectly normal if his progression to the body-tempering realm exceeds 3 days. Hearing this, the elders nodded in satisfaction. The Saint Son's assessment mirrored their own thoughts. After all, a mortal body lacks the unique enhancements of a divine physique, making a slower pace expected, though completion within 10 days would still be acceptable. Yu Xiao's appreciation for Shi Qi only deepened, and his intent to take him as a personal disciple grew even stronger. At the same time, he could not help but feel a lingering curiosity, wondering how many days this mortal-bodied prodigy, who had already created a miracle, would take to reach body tempering. Meanwhile, I was focused entirely on cultivating the Wuji Dao scripture. Thanks to the 10,000 times talent bestowed upon me by the system, my comprehension was peerless. By the 5th iteration, I no longer needed to consciously control my breathing or the circulation of energy. As dawn broke, I inhaled the first breath of morning spiritual energy, and my body suddenly contracted. The system's notification rang abruptly in my ears. Host has reached the body-tempering realm. Beginner's task complete. Reward: 1 martial skill minor achievement coupon. Hearing this, waves of excitement washed over me, though the elders watching from above were even more shaken. They had witnessed with their own eyes a mortal reach the body-tempering realm in a mere 6 hours. The Taiyi sect master murmured in a daze. 6 hours. He has shattered the record for the fastest body tempering in the history of our prodigies. He recalled that it had taken him 17 full days to reach the body tempering realm. For the first time, the sect master realized just how vast the chasm between individuals could be on the path of cultivation. He then let out a self-deprecating laugh. It is fortunate that I was born 3,000 years before him. Had we lived in the same era, my Dakyo heart would have surely shattered. However, the elders suddenly furrowed their brows. Shi Qi has now officially stepped onto the path of cultivation, yet we find ourselves unable to turn away. Who will provide him with guidance or insights? Body refining is the foundational realm on the path of cultivation, and its importance is paramount. Whether one masters it or fails will directly determine how far they can progress in the future. Auxiliary techniques for body refining are as numerous as the hairs on an ox, and whether one utilizes them or not results in a heaven and earth difference in the final achievements of this realm. I can only hope we emerge from this quickly, and I pray this boy does not attempt to train blindly on his own. Hearing this, the sect master remained silent, though he could only offer silent prayers in his heart, hoping that the Wuji Dao Kang was sufficiently miraculous so that even if he trained step by step without any auxiliary methods, he could still achieve remarkable results. Unlike the elders who were frantic with worry, although I had been cultivating throughout the entire night, my state remained exceptionally optimal. Feeling invigorated, I stretched my limbs, realizing that after half a year, I had finally touched the threshold of the extraordinary. No longer a mere mortal, after adjusting for a moment, I curled my fingers into a fist out of curiosity. That is right. I wonder what level my strength has reached. If one were to cultivate the great sun-melting furnace body after reaching the body refining stage, a single swing of the arm could generate 200 jin of force. And if one possessed a special constitution, then breaking the 10,000 jin threshold would not be difficult. Although I possess a mortal physique, the Wuji Dao Kang is a far more profound cultivation technique, so I suspect breaking the 10,000 jin threshold will be as effortless as consuming a meal, though I do not know where my limits truly lie. After a moment of contemplation, I decided to head to the martial arts hall to put it to the test, but before that, I must utilize the martial skill minor accomplishment card awarded by the system. Learning a martial skill before venturing to the martial arts hall. In this realm, combat prowess is determined by martial skills, offensive techniques, divine abilities, magical treasures, and divine weapons. Among these, martial skills and divine abilities are the foundations upon which a cultivator stands. Furthermore, according to the requirements of the Wuji Dao Kang, the body refining stage requires one to engage in slaughter against wild beasts to temper the body, and the spirit beasts, at the sect's 10,000 beast peak, are perfect. Afterward, I paced back and forth on the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion, searching for a heaven-grade superior martial arts jade slip. The Tai dust floating method was graceful and fluid, like the whisk of a high immortal. But it did not seem to suit my temperament. This heaven-severing finger technique looked decent, but relying solely on finger techniques against demonic beasts seemed far too risky. I left it aside for the moment, and continued to browse as I walked. Finally, I came to a stop before a jade slip hovering in mid-air. The spiritual aura emanating from this particular slip was profound. It seemed entirely indifferent to everything surrounding it. I examined the introduction nearby. 5 Sacred Mountains, True Form Fist. A heaven-grade superior martial art that uses the intent of the fist to channel the soul of the great mountains and the earth. Every strike descends with the weight of a towering mountain. It is unparalleled in its heaviness, capable of suppressing all things. Note: this fist technique requires a deep foundation. Those who have not attained a force of 10,000 jin at the first stage of body refining must not attempt to cultivate it. After reading this, my heart surged with joy. Such a formidable, direct impact fist technique was exactly what I needed. It was perfectly tailored for me. The 5 sacred mountains of this world are different from those in my previous life. They are not only gargantuan and majestic, but also possess vast spiritual veins that nourish countless living beings. It is said that when this fist technique is cultivated to its peak, one can borrow the soul of the 5 mountains to suppress all things. While that claim might be slightly exaggerated, its power is definitely not to be underestimated. After all, the strength of any martial art is inextricably linked to one's cultivation realm. If a body-refining cultivator were to use this, it would be no more than a gentle tickle. But when a powerhouse at the spirit projection realm strikes, they could rend the heavens and destroy the earth. They could even sink the central plains with a single blow. The more I thought about it, the more thrilled I became, and I pressed the jade slip directly against my forehead. The profound meanings of the fist technique and the keys to its cultivation flooded into my sea of consciousness. After a few breaths, I released the jade slip in satisfaction, but instead of rushing to practice the technique to its preliminary stage, I departed from the scripture pavilion with light steps. I quickly activated my flying boat and headed straight for the martial arts hall on the transmission peak. Upon seeing that I had chosen the 5 sacred mountains true form fist, the elders of the Taiyi Zhengsu sect frowned. Why would Shi Qi choose this particular martial art? The 5 sacred mountains true form fist has sat in the scripture pavilion for millions of years. Many have attempted to comprehend it, but it seems only the 32nd generation sect leader succeeded. That is correct. That sect leader Song was gifted with extraordinary talent and possessed a peerless tyrant body perfectly suited for body refining techniques. Back in those days, after he brought the 5 sacred mountains true form first to great accomplishment, he swept across this realm with no equal. It is a pity that while the power of this fist technique is peerless under the heavens, the difficulty of cultivating it is simply too great. I recall that until the very end of his life, sect leader Song never reached the realm of perfection with this manual. In fact, before he passed away, sect leader Song stated plainly that he had squandered too much time in this life attempting to comprehend the 5 mountains true form fist, which ultimately left him with insufficient lifespan. Otherwise, he might have had a chance to glimpse the soul-severing realm. I do not know if, in his final moments, sect leader Song regretted cultivating such a peerless martial technique. Regardless of what sect leader Song may have thought, that is now a matter of the past. The pressing issue at hand is, why did Shi Qi choose this specific martial technique? Indeed, he has only just reached the body refining stage, and this is his first time cultivating a martial skill. At this stage, choosing a profound grade technique to test his foundations would be the most logical path. The elders believe that cultivation must prioritize balance. Seeing a promising sapling potentially stray onto a crooked path due to reckless training causes them great anxiety, especially the sect leader of Taiyi. At this moment, he is knitting his brows, silently contemplating. Although Shi Qi possesses exceptional talent, he truly has a mortal body. Without the added advantage of a peerless tyrant physique, cultivating the 5 mountains true form fist will undoubtedly be an arduous road. Beside him, Yunxiao also clenches his fists tightly. He too cannot bear to watch me take a detour in my cultivation. He then looks toward the elders, saying, "You have all cultivated to your current realms. Whether it be divine abilities or heterodox arts, your knowledge and experience far surpass that of an ordinary disciple. Is there truly no way to penetrate the Taiyi void to communicate with Shi Qi? Even sending a brief signal to warn him would be better than sitting here in distress." Hearing this, the elders begin to rack their brains for a solution. As for me, the one causing these venerable experts so much worry, I have already arrived at the martial arts hall by flying boat. This is the place where disciples in the body refining stage go to test their strength. My gaze sweeps across the various instruments scattered on the ground. I finally select a stone lock weighing 10,000 caddies. Taking a deep breath, I exert force with one hand and lift it high above my head. I expected it to be a struggle, but to my surprise it feels abnormally light. My heart is filled with shock. It seems I have severely underestimated myself. I set the stone lock down and continue to test heavier equipment, eventually discovering that I can struggle to lift an 18,000 caddy stone with one hand. I can only say that the Wuji Dao treasury is truly reliable. I have only reached the first layer of body refining, yet I already possess a single-handed strength of 18,000 caddies. The greater one's strength during the body refining stage, the more significant the long-term benefits. Each breakthrough level brings a comprehensive enhancement to the physical form. By the time one achieves perfection in body refining, the accumulated gains erupt into a monumental leap in power. After sensing the changes within, I could not help but curl the corners of my mouth into a smile. This is the script I should have been handed upon my transmigration. If the entire sect had not departed, relying on this raw strength of 18,000 jin in a single arm, surely they would have at least granted me the status of a core disciple. Regrettably, the great calamity of heaven and earth will descend in 3 years. For now, I must exhaust every means to save myself. With this thought, I walked toward the building situated in front of the martial arts arena. Having spent a day and a night in continuous, high-intensity study and cultivation, I was utterly exhausted and required a deep slumber to restore my vitality. Once I have rested, I will refine the 5 Peaks True Form Fist to a small success, then head to the Myriad Beast Peak to hunt demonic beasts. Actual combat. I finalized the next steps of my cultivation plan in my mind. You entered the building, casually found a nearby bed, and fell into a death-like slumber. Meanwhile, the display of my 18,000 jin of single-arm strength had sent the inner and outer sect disciples into an uproar. What is happening? He lifted an 18,000 jin boulder with one hand. Was it not said that a mortal body possesses no special attributes? How is he so formidable? To be this powerful at the first level of body refining, Shi Qi is truly worthy of being personally acknowledged by the Supreme Elder. How can one achieve 18,000 jin of strength after only one night of refining the body? Surely he has shattered our sect's record, has he not? His talent is likely superior to my own. Who says that only the great aristocratic families and sacred lands can produce such brilliant geniuses? Shi Qi is truly a role model for us disciples of the outer sect. By late night, as I remained in a deep sleep, the crowd lost their subject of interest and began to grow bored. Core and inner sect disciples who have practiced the Dabio for decades can endure the solitude, but the outer disciples found it difficult. They began to gossip amongst themselves. Yet the subject of their conversation eventually returned. What transpired yesterday was truly like a dream. I have never witnessed anything more absurd than this phenomenon, especially since it was triggered by a mortal. Why did Shi Qi not enter the Taiyi Zhengsu with the rest of us? Who could say? I suspect he had no idea where we had gone. From Shi Qi's perspective, he simply woke up one morning to find the entire sect had vanished. Then he is fortunate indeed. Facing an empty sect, indeed, the Grand Elder has even designated him as a candidate for the succession list. With such an elevated status, I fear that even if he were to dismantle the entire sect, by the time we emerge, the sect master would not utter a single word of reprimand, and might even praise his strength. Then what if we remain trapped here indefinitely? Shi Qi is in for a difficult time, left all alone in such a vast sect, with no one to speak to, and not even a pet to keep him company. For a month or two, it might be tolerable, but if it stretches into years or decades, would he not be driven to the brink of madness? Elder Wei Feng rolled his eyes as he listened to their conversation. A bunch of fools. If we truly cannot get out, it is hard to say how Shi Qi feels, but we are the ones who would surely lose our minds first. However, with the 3 Grand Elders present, how could we possibly fail to escape? He silently raised his head to gaze deep into the secret realm, and for some unknown reason, a flicker of panic stirred in his heart. Meanwhile, at the heart of the Taiyi True Void, the high-ranking sect officials were not worried about whether they could escape, but were anxious to find a way to contact me, urging me not to waste time practicing that 5 Peaks True Form Fist. At this moment, Xu Wuxuan paced back and forth, frowning. Spiritual energy transmission had failed, and celestial warnings remained silent. Was there truly no other way? Throughout the night, the elders of the 12 Peaks continuously proposed strategies, but none were reliable. Ultimately, the boundary laws of the Taiyi True Void are too profound. The wall, intersecting with reality, is of a level that beings of their cultivation cannot pierce. Yu Xiao drew a sword adorned with flower petals from her storage ring, and let out a sigh. It is a pity that my hidden flower sword was pulled in here. Otherwise, I might have been able to manipulate it from afar to catch Shi Qi's attention. Upon hearing this, the Peak Master of Soul Suppression Peak, Ji Qimo, saw a glint in his eyes. Fellow brothers and sisters, hearing Senior Sister Yun's words, I have suddenly recalled some. Tell me, do you think the puppet beasts left within the sect can still be controlled? At these words, everyone's eyes lit up. The art of puppet cultivation requires one to detach a portion of one's divine consciousness and imbue it into the puppet for manipulation. This technique of splitting one's consciousness, holds the highest priority level comparable to a life-bound artifact, even if separated by 10,000 miles. And even with arrays blocking the way, one can still maintain a connection. The elder of Heavenly Craft Peak looked at him impatiently. Old Zuo, hurry and test whether you can reach that pile of your scrap metal. Before Zaichimuo could even bristle at the remark, Shu Wuxuan frowned as he looked at Liu Daoyoti. Senior brother Daoti, why must you constantly provoke senior brother Chimuo's deepest insecurities? It is enough to simply acknowledge that it is a pile of scrap metal. Why must you insist on saying it aloud? The sect master could no longer remain silent. Junior brother Shu, you should hold your tongue as well. Zaichimuo pulled a tight expression and cupped his hands toward the sect master. Sect master, I shall begin now. The sect master nodded with evident anticipation. Very well, proceed. There is no harm even if you fail. Zaichimuo nodded, then pressed two fingers together, silently channeling his mystical arts. As the elders watched him struggle to maintain the spell, his complexion gradually turned pale. After a long moment, Zaichimuo abruptly retracted his spiritual sense, gasping for breath as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. Seeing this, Yu Xiao hurriedly stepped forward to ask, how is it, junior brother Za? Zaichimuo shook his head. The formation laws laid down by the ancestor are far too potent. My divine sense cannot penetrate the barrier. Upon hearing this, everyone present felt a flicker of disappointment. At this moment, Zaichimuo added, however, there is indeed one small puppet beast that I was barely able to establish contact with. It was something I crafted back when I first began studying the art of puppetry. A small Shi Qi the size of a palm. Due to my lack of experience at the time, it was a failure and became a piece of useless scrap, which I discarded in the warehouse of Zhenhun Peak. Just now, the connection between myself and the other high-tier puppets was completely blocked by the Taiyi True Void, perhaps because the divine sense required to control them is too vast, whereas this defective little beast requires very little, which is why the connection succeeded. Since it is a failed product, it cannot release spiritual energy, and there are few techniques it can perform. The Taiyi sect master waved his hand nonchalantly upon hearing this. It is of no consequence. As long as we can control its movements, that is enough. We only need to locate Shi Qi and have your puppet beast write out the full details of the situation on the ground, and its mission will be considered complete. According to the sect master, whether or not Zaichimuo's puppet beast possessed offensive capabilities or the ability to transmit sound was fundamentally irrelevant. After all, the sect was perfectly safe, and Shi Qi was in no immediate danger. Merely having this small puppet beast move normally can already be considered a success. Once we find Shi Qi, won't it be simple enough to control the beast and have it right on the ground? Once Shi Qi sees it, he will naturally understand the situation. The other elders harbored the same thoughts in their hearts. At this moment, Yu Xiao smiled gently. Let us go. Junior brother, hurry and control the small beast to find Shi Qi. Once he discards the Five Peaks True Form Fist, it will be the perfect time for him to switch to my Heaven Tier low-grade technique, the Taiyi Clear Light Force. As soon as she finished speaking, the Taiyi sect master immediately interjected. What foolish words is senior sister Yun speaking? After making contact with Shi Qi, he must certainly learn my wood-attuned, heaven-returning art. This is the most suitable heaven-tier low-grade divine ability for him to cultivate. It is a rare technique in this world that begins at the body-refining stage. Once perfected, one can regenerate flesh and blood, even with only a single breath remaining. Hearing this, Yu Xiao continued to respond with a bright smile. So the sect master intends for a genius who has reached the 9th level of the Golden Pavilion, a talent seen only once in a million years, to forego offensive measures and instead prioritize learning how to endure beatings and preserve his own life. Is that correct? Seeing the two of them like this, Zuo Chimo hesitated several times before stepping forward. Sect master, senior sister, please stop arguing. My small beast cannot write at all. As soon as these words were spoken, the sect master frowned. What do you mean by that? Yu Xiao was also filled with confusion. Since it is a small beast, it must have sharp claws. Why would it be unable to write on the ground? Zuo Chimo rubbed his hands in embarrassment. Because I designed its 4 legs to be spherical. You will see once you look, fellow brothers and sisters. He then channeled the Dharma seal and released his divine sense, connecting in an instant to the storehouse on the mountain peak in the lower realm. Then, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, a perfectly round iron sphere rolled out from the small door of the storehouse, finally revealing its true form under the moonlight. It was a small, mechanical, mythical creature, rusted all over and only the size of a palm. At a glance it looked no different from a mere iron toy. Its eyes were inlaid with 2 rubies. On its back grew a pair of wings that looked as if they were made of tattered cloth. Its 4 legs were so short they were nearly invisible, and as it moved, it wobbled back and forth, while its Tai Chi Mac flushed and pointed at the small beast, saying, "Look at its current state. It can barely move, so how is it supposed to write for Shi Qi?" The others stared in confusion, and Shengguang-kun could not help but retort. Old Zuo, what kind of mangled puppet have you refined? If we were to face an enemy, are you counting on it to make our opponent die of laughter? Hearing this, Tai Chi Mak retorted with dissatisfaction. I already stated it was a failed refinement product. Besides, do you not find this little beast foolishly adorable? Seeing the two about to quarrel, the sect master immediately spoke up to intervene. That is enough. Silence yourselves. Junior brother Zuo, how do you intend for this small beast to meet Shi Qi? Tai Chi Mak hurriedly explained to him, reporting to the sect master. Although the internal array formations of this puppet are nearly paralyzed, its wings remain functional, granting it a certain capacity for flight. Hearing this, the sect master's eyes brightened, and he felt a sense of relief in his heart. It was fortunate that the prototype of this small beast was a Shi Qi. Had it lacked wings, they would have reached a dead end. He then hurriedly instructed, attempt to activate it. If it functions, have it fly toward the Chuangong Peak. As for how to convey the message once it reaches Shi Qi, we shall take it one step at a time. Tai Chi Mak nodded in acknowledgement and immediately channeled a strand of divine sense to control it. The small puppet beast immediately flapped the tattered wings on its back and took flight. Its round body swayed unsteadily in mid-air, leaving the elders watching with growing apprehension. Sensing this, Tai Chi Mak quickly explained, brothers and sisters, there is no need to worry. Although this beast is a failed refinement, the materials used are exceptional. It is forged from starfall flowing light iron, and its body is incredibly resilient. It can withstand a direct strike from an axe. Hearing these words, the group finally set their minds at ease. Time passed bit by bit until the sun had climbed high, and I finally awoke. After a simple wash, I pondered my next cultivation plans, while walking onto the martial arts arena to stretch my muscles and warm up. I intended to practice the 5 Mountains True Form Fist, to see what it would feel like without the aid of the schist. However, before I could even settle into my stance, I noticed a round lump of iron flying erratically toward me from the horizon not far away. Seeing the iron sphere drawing closer, I immediately raised my leg and struck it with force, sending the sphere whistling back in the direction it came from. At that very moment, the elders hovering in the sky above the sect were left dumbfounded. They had watched with bated breath as the small puppet beast flew through the entire night, finally reaching the transmission peak with great difficulty. Yet, before it could even establish proper contact with me, it had been kicked away in an instant. The sect master was the first to react. He hurriedly commanded them to make it fly back at once. They had to stop Shi Qi at all costs. Before he could refine the 5 Peaks True Form Fist, Zuo Qimo gritted his teeth and nodded. He was controlling the small, scrap metal Shi Qi puppet that had been flying all night. At this point, the spiritual connection between them was growing increasingly tenuous, and there were many moments where he could not maintain stable control. Most critically, he was unable to bolster his spiritual sense lest he trigger the barrier. The Taiyi True Void barrier stood between them, threatening to sever their link entirely. He could only carefully sense each fragile bit of feedback, struggling to guide the small puppet beast back to the transmission peak. On the other side, I stroked my chin, filled with confusion. What in the world was that just now? It appeared to be a puppet beast. Recalling the sensation from that kick and the close-up look I had just moments ago, I felt more certain of my guess. While puppet beasts were rare in other regions, they were not considered uncommon within the Taiyi True Sect, thanks to the existence of the soul-suppressing peak. When I first joined the sect, I had seen a puppet at the outer peak. It was said to be a giant bird, forged entirely from iron and steel materials, carrying several inner disciples who were returning to the sect from abroad. Back then, I naturally had no idea what kind of puppet it was. It wasn't until I overheard the outer sect senior brothers discussing it that I understood, and I marveled for a long time at the diverse cultivation paths in this world. I remembered that puppet beasts seemed to be crafted using the souls of cultivators with spiritual intelligence, much like the jade slips in the Pavilion of Scriptures, which had now been cleared out by the entire sect. It would stand to reason that the mechanism puppets had likely been taken away as well. Yet, this piece of scrap metal had been left behind. Could it be that, like me, it had missed the transport and was left behind, only to coincidentally discover me and rush over to seek some comfort? I was pondering this, but I did not think too deeply on it. After all, it was merely a puppet beast. I shook my head and assumed my stance, preparing to begin my practice. Just then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a lump of metal appear on the steps of the training grounds. It wobbled and rolled its way over, finally slamming into my calf with a dull thud, giving me quite a start. Its 4 rounded iron legs kicked wildly in the air, and its broom-like tail slapped incessantly against the ground. I blinked, tapped my finger on the top of the small beast's head, and immediately fired off 3 questions in succession. You have returned, brother? You must have a specific purpose in coming to find me, do you not? Do you have any idea what has actually transpired within the sect? Do you understand what I am saying? At that very moment, the elders witnessing this scene were filled with agitation. The sect master seized Zuo Qimo by the arm, urging him to control the puppet and elicit a reaction. Upon hearing this, Zuochimo hurriedly channeled his divine sense. Yet the more anxious he became, the more unstable his transmission grew. Observing that the small beast below remained motionless, my brows began to furrow. Zuochimo was so frantic that sweat began to bead upon his forehead. Seeing this, Yu Xiao wore a look of confusion, as he had only asked it to nod. "Is it truly that difficult?" Zuochimo gave a bitter laugh, saying, "I wish for it to nod as well." But having controlled its flight throughout the entire night, the remaining stability of the array inscriptions within its body has been completely exhausted, causing many of my commands to be received sporadically. Hearing this, Lu Dao wore an expression of utter disdain. "Does that not mean this piece of junk is completely useless?" Zuochimo immediately defended it with dissatisfaction, retorting, "What do you mean? If not for my little Shi Qi, we would not even be able to make the slightest contact with Shi Qi at this moment, let alone the fact that it is not entirely incapable. I have just tested it. Although the nodding command is difficult to execute, it can still shake its head." At this moment, seeing that I was losing interest and preparing to set the little Qi back on the ground, the sect master shouted urgently, "A shake of the head will suffice. Have it shake its head immediately." Upon hearing this, the elders were struck with horror, thinking, "Sect master, you cannot do this. Would that not negate the suspicion that we worked so hard to instill in Shi Qi?" Before the sect master could speak, Yu Xiao explained first. "The sect master is correct. If it cannot nod, then let it shake its head. For the most pressing matter is to make Shi Qi realize that this small beast possesses intelligence and is not merely an ordinary puppet. If, because of this, Shi Qi keeps it by his side, we will eventually have the opportunity to gradually make contact with him and lead him to discover the truth." Hearing this, everyone immediately understood. In truth, whether it nods or shakes its head is of little importance. The most critical thing is for it to display a reaction. Zuochimo regained his composure and quickly transmitted a command through his divine sense. Just as I was about to discard this strange puppet beast, I saw it slowly shake its small metallic head. I looked at the iron beast before me in disbelief, asking, "Can you?" Since it shook its head, that proves this small beast was indeed abandoned. Like me, it does not know what happened to its sect. Now that it has come to me, it must have realized I am a sect disciple, thinking that following by my side would provide a sense of security. It is truly a pitiful creature. Thinking of this, I did not kick the small Qi away this time. After all, within the sect, aside from myself, the only other thing capable of movement is this foolish puppet beast. Keeping it nearby would provide some company, so I placed it back on the ground. "Little one, if you wish to follow me, then stay. However, I must now cultivate, so move aside, lest you get injured." Hearing me say this, the metallic small Qi froze, as if trying to comprehend what was meant. Meanwhile, in the secret realm above, the elders all breathed a sigh of relief. The puppet beast has successfully remained by my side. This means the only path of communication between both sides has not been severed. Then, Zuochimo performed a hand seal and asked, "So what shall we do next?" This question left everyone speechless. With a defective Qi that cannot speak, cannot write, and cannot even nod, how are we to remind Shi Qi of the method to cultivate the 5 peaks true form fist? Suddenly, the peak master of Tianji Peak, Shangguan-kun, stepped forward. "I have a plan. Junior brother Zuo can control the small beast through the residual spiritual traces on the ground, and use its entire body to write out the information that needs to be conveyed." The scene might appear somewhat peculiar at first, but after repeating it a few times, given Shi Qi's intelligence, he will surely discern the clues. As soon as this plan was proposed, the elders all applauded its ingenuity. Zuochimo immediately began to control it. But just as I assumed my stance, I saw that rusted puppet beast suddenly running around as if having a seizure. Yet, because it was nearly spherical, its running turned into rolling and tumbling, leaving not only me staring with a face full of confusion, even the elders in the Taiyi Zhengsu were left with darkened expressions. Shangguan-kun frowned and chided the elder. "How are you controlling it? Who could possibly see that as writing?" Zuochimo immediately retorted, "If you are so capable, then you do it. The small Qi can barely stand as it is, and now I must control it. To write so many characters, what I have achieved is already quite remarkable." Shangguan-kun was about to argue further when he was silenced by a glare from the sect master, who then spoke up. "Junior brother Zuo, what content did you write?" Zuochimo replied, "The sect is unharmed. You must not practice the 5 peaks true form fist." Upon hearing this, the sect master shook his head. "That will not do. There are too many characters. Shorten it to 4 words. Do not practice." Zuochimo immediately carried out the order. Meanwhile, the little Qi puppet, already moving in such an abstract, disjointed manner below, had not even finished its previous strokes before it began shifting to the new characters halfway through. At first, I merely thought this scrap metal puppet was having a seizure, but the longer I looked, the more I noticed a pattern in its movements. It seemed governed by a certain logic, so I observed it with intense focus. "Could it be that you are writing characters? But what exactly are you trying to convey?" The elders in the sky trembled with excitement upon hearing this. Heaven is watching, and the ancestors are blessing us. This lad has finally understood. Shi Qi is truly gifted with supreme intelligence. He has already deduced that the little beast is writing, and he surely understands the message. Junior brother Zuo, we are counting on your performance. Do not let your divine sense waver. You must put forth your greatest effort to write those characters clearly. Zuo Qimo felt the pressure mounting like a crushing mountain. If this little Chung Chi could keep its 4 short legs steady, using its rounded claws to write on the ground would not be difficult. However, the problem was that its 4 limb joints were far too erratic, and it struggled to even control its own head. Yet now, it had to use those disjointed, stubby legs to etch characters into the earth. Do not practice. He drew these 4 words in a wildly crooked fashion, leaving him to only hope that Shi Qi could decipher this masterpiece of pure abstraction. At this moment, I was intently observing the movement trajectory of the Chung Qi puppet. After watching for a long time, I finally managed to discern something. It was indeed writing characters. Although the strokes were distorted, it was undeniably trying to communicate something to me. It seemed there was a character for correct. The moment I deduced the word correct, the Taiyi True Void began to surge with activity. He guessed it correctly. Shi Qi's innate talent is truly terrifying. To be honest, watching the little beast write in such a manner, even knowing the answer beforehand, I could not find even a shred of resemblance to actual writing. Yet, Shi Qi still guessed one character correctly. He is truly a prodigious talent. Regardless of his cultivation aptitude or his intellect, Shi Qi is worthy of being called an peerless genius, a foundation of such quality. The more I look at him, the more he pleases me. We must ensure he is guided onto the right path. Indeed, whether or not the Taiyi True Sect can reclaim its former glory, the future rests entirely upon the shoulders of Shi Qi. The sect master breathed a sigh of relief, his heart finally settling into a state of composure. Shi Qi is wise. If he has already identified the word correct, surely he will have no trouble recognizing the simplest word, do not. By that time, no matter how distorted the characters drawn by the puppet beast might be, relying solely on the 2 characters for must, combined with the location of the martial arts arena, Shi Qi should be able to grasp at least some meaning. And if this step proves successful, then in the future, explaining the sect's situation or providing guidance to Shi Qi from afar will no longer be a mere fantasy. Reflecting on this, the sect master and Yu Xiao both felt satisfied. As for me, looking down at the markings repeatedly, thanks to my powerful imagination, I confidently spoke up, stating that the first character was must, though the following ones were difficult to decipher. However, it seemed there was a practice character and a sentence of over 10 characters. To have guessed 2 characters already felt like an achievement, but what could must practice possibly mean? Could it be a reminder for me not to be lazy in my cultivation? As soon as those words left my lips, the puppet beast, which had been drawing talismans all over the ground, immediately froze. The crowd at Taiyi Zhengsu collectively lost their composure. How could he discern the character must but fail to see the road character preceding it? I wondered, why did Shi Qi perceive the puppet beast as having drawn over 10 characters? Were there not only 4 characters in total? Shi Qi is so intelligent. Surely the control must have been faulty. That small puppet, junior brother Zuo, what kind of work have you been doing? Hearing this, Zuo Qimo looked at everyone with grievance. Everyone, I have done my utmost. As for why Shi Qi sees over 10 characters, it is because what was initially written was a very long sentence, but then the characters were abruptly changed midway, thus causing the misunderstanding. Hearing this, everyone was momentarily stunned. Shu Wuxuan stamped his feet in frustration. But how could he interpret that as, must practice? This is completely contrary to what we intended to convey, and the others were at a loss for words. At that very moment, my voice drifted up from below. Little fellow, from now on I shall call you Ta. You are right. Time is pressing now. I truly cannot afford to delay any longer. Regardless of what happens today, I must finish practicing the 5 Peaks True Form Fist. But the elders no longer cared what name I had given it. Upon hearing that I intended to practice, they immediately became frantic with tension. Zuo Qimo even transmitted his divine sense, ordering the small... As I watched this scene from below, I couldn't help but chuckle. Very well, very well. I know you are keeping watch over me. You will not allow me to slack off. Rest assured, I shall begin my cultivation immediately. Having said that, I began to practice in earnest, following the insights I held in my mind regarding the 5 Peaks True Form Fist. Soon, streams of energy began to coil around my body. The hearts of the elders, which had been hanging by a thread, finally sank into despair. It was finished. A technique of this caliber requires 20 or 30 years to master. Shi Qi, a genius born once in a million years to our sect, was about to see his future ruined by a high-grade, heaven-tier martial art. Many elders who were closely observing the situation below were suddenly shocked when Liu Daoji cried out, "Look quickly! Shi Qi has already completed the first set." To produce such a dazzling array of fist shadows on his first attempt, he truly is a genius, seen once in a million years. Yet, it is a pity. Despite such heaven-sent talent, even he would require 10 years to achieve minor success. This path that Shi Qi has chosen is ultimately a detour. Afterward, the sect master asked in a grave tone, "Fellow brothers, is there truly no other way?" But this time, everyone was truly out of ideas and could only shake their heads in helplessness. Just then, Liu Daoji spoke up once more. "Shi Qi has begun his second set." Everyone hurriedly leaned in to watch. They saw that once I began, I did not stop. I had become completely immersed in the movements. Several peak masters and elders watched me practice with such solemnity and felt absolute despair. Even the disciples of the Tai Zhengsu were ashen-faced. Rather than watching the tedious practice of a martial art, they would have preferred to see how quickly I could cultivate my internal energy. Yet now I was obsessed with this fist technique, effectively severing my own bright future with my own hands. The inner sect disciples sighed and shook their heads. They whispered among themselves that this disciple, ranked 10th by default, was far too shallow. Meanwhile, the holy son Li Zhengyun laughed manically in his heart. This Shi Qi possessed a top-grade, heaven-tier cultivation manual, yet was not satisfied, choosing instead to greedily attempt to dual cultivate a high-grade heaven-tier martial art. With such insatiable greed, it would be a miracle if his cultivation realm did not plummet. For all he knew, Shi Qi was simply a fool. If he truly committed 10 or 20 years to practicing this fist technique, he would eventually run out of time to reach the soul-refining realm. As long as Shi Qi continued to squander his time in such a manner, the ultimate victor would inevitably be him. Just as he was contemplating this, he suddenly heard Liu Dao's voice, strange and heavy. "Do you all notice something? Shi Qi's martial intent seems to be growing more ferocious by the moment." As soon as these words were spoken, Shu Wuxuan, the peak master of the transmission peak, immediately observed him closely. He then exclaimed in astonishment, "It is true. Shi Qi's martial intent is increasing at an unnatural pace. It is as if one strike from him is equivalent to 10,000 strikes from another. What exactly is happening here?" Once alerted, the other elders also noticed the anomaly. And upon closer inspection, they realized it was indeed so. This martial intent is escalating too rapidly. I have lived for over 4,000 years, yet I have never witnessed anyone's martial technique evolve like Shi Qi's. Compared to his first round of strikes, it has become an entirely different form. This is fundamentally not something that can be achieved in a mere few hours. Could it be that in terms of martial aptitude, he also possesses peerless talent? Yet, they did not know that the reason for my rapid progress was the minor accomplishment talisman for the 5 mountains technique. In truth, after relying on my own aptitude to complete the first round of strikes, I had already sensed the immense difficulty of this martial technique. Therefore, from the second round onward, I unleashed my full potential with ease, entering a wondrous state of enlightenment. I felt as though every scrap of my personal experience was being amplified infinitely. At this speed, I was certain I could reach the minor accomplishment stage before sunset. As I pondered this, I unleashed yet another round of martial techniques. As time slowly drifted by, I naturally showed signs of nearing the minor accomplishment stage. The disciples at Tai Zhenshu were left completely stupefied. A martial technique that others must painstakingly practice for decades had been mastered by me in only a few hours. At this moment, as I became increasingly proficient with the core essence of the technique, the imagery of the mountains hidden within my phantom strikes began to manifest clearly. By the end, they were fully visible to the naked eye. Each strike carried the weight of 10,000 soldiers, a vast and powerful aura shrouding the heavens and the earth. Witnessing this, the peak master of the transmission peak, who had spent half his life teaching disciples to cultivate, immediately fell into a state of self-doubt. This goes entirely against the common sense of the cultivation world. The saint's son was even more paralyzed, repeatedly rubbing his eyes, hoping in his heart that this was all a mere illusion. Yet, the gasps of shock from those around him made it clear. It was all reality. Shi Qi had nearly mastered a heaven-grade superior martial technique in just one day. Down on the training grounds, as the final punch in my hand condensed 5 distinct streams of power, an immense martial intent surged straight into the sky, manifesting into a phantom image. The 5 great mountains gathered above my head. After a few breaths, I retracted my fist and stood upright. The violent gale surrounding my body did not dissipate, and the lingering afterimage of my punch continued to swirl. I exhaled a breath of stagnant air. Finally, I had mastered the 5 mountains' true form fist. At this moment, I looked up to see that the sky had darkened. I had been cultivating since this morning, a full 4 hours in total. I sighed inwardly, acknowledging that the system had not deceived me. It had indeed reached the minor success stage within a single day. Just as I intended to test the power of the 5 mountains' true form fist, a wave of hunger suddenly surged throughout my entire body. I frowned helplessly. I had been practicing for so long that I had nearly forgotten I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Ever since I discovered that the entire sect had vanished, I had been living under the constant threat of imminent destruction, continuously driven by the system, leaving the Golden Pavilion only to sleep for a day and a night. And today, I had cultivated the 5 mountains true form fist to the minor success stage. It had been 3 full days without a single drop of water. That I had not yet collapsed from hunger was solely due to my body having reached the body refining realm. I quickly cast aside all other distractions, concluding that it was best to eat something and get some proper rest. I had read in the ancient texts that one must reach the foundation establishment stage or higher to achieve anidia, the ability to abstain from food. Conversely, the 3 realms of body refining, soul refining, and spirit forging require an abundance of spirit rice, spirit spring water, and beast meat to replenish physical strength. I immediately leaped onto my flying boat and headed straight for the Myriad Beast Peak. At that moment, Tai Tai scurried to follow me. I tucked it into my robe and brought it to the dining hall of the Myriad Beast Peak. The Myriad Beast Peak was recognized as the finest dining location within the entire sect. This peak raised a vast number of spirit beasts. Those with a docile temperament were tamed to serve as mounts. The ferocious ones were used as trial challenges for the disciples. Consequently, a great number of beasts perished on the Myriad Beast Peak every single day. The flesh and blood of these fallen beasts were then prepared into gourmet delicacies. Thus, the meat at the Myriad Beast Peak was of the highest quality among all the peaks, occasionally even featuring the flesh and blood of peak-tier great beasts. Upon arriving at the kitchen area powered by advanced formations, I noticed that each dish cost upwards of 1,000 contribution points. 3 main dishes prepared from the flesh of spirit forging realm beasts exceeded 10,000 points. Such a level of expenditure was affordable to only a few hundred out of the sect's 100,000 disciples. Back then, as a reserve, I was only fit to consume humble spirit rice porridge at the Outer Peaks Refectory, or at best, settle for meager scraps of low-grade spirit beast meat. Now that the entire sect has vanished, I certainly cannot afford to mistreat myself. If I am to eat, I must feast upon the finest offerings. With this thought, I pressed my disciple token against the array, Steel's focal point, and began ordering with fervor. In a mere moment, I had spent 130,000 contribution points, causing the formation to roar into action immediately. Half an incense stick later, 16 exquisite dishes and a massive basin of spirit rice stood before me, and famished, I began to eat. Under the influence of the digestion technique within the Wujidao treasury, the essence of every morsel and the pure spirit beast meat were thoroughly absorbed. In an instant, I felt the cultivation within my body surge violently. While I ate like a starving tiger, the disciples stationed across the sect began to watch in ravenous desperation. Someone shouted, "I can no longer endure this! Whoever has food, I am willing to trade 100 contribution points for it." Yet, there were few who responded to his plea. For previously, one only needed a single day to meditate within the Tai void, so naturally, no one had bothered to prepare provisions. Even those who happened to have food in their storage rings were not foolish enough to trade it away to others at a time like this. The elders of the various peaks noticed the unfolding situation and immediately reported it. The news traveled swiftly to the sect master. It was only then that the sect master remembered the disciples' need for sustenance. Having long ago achieved anidia, he had subconsciously overlooked such a trivial matter. The sect master then asked, "Which of you brothers and sisters has surplus provisions in your storage rings? Please, distribute them among the disciples." Simultaneously, streams of light erupted from his storage ring, manifesting into a vast array of food suspended in mid-air. Seeing this, the other elders likewise produced their own emergency rations. Although they had long practiced anidia, after thousands of years of cultivation, their storage rings were filled with all manner of items, and food was not difficult to procure. Among them, Dong Zhen, the peak master of the Myriad Beasts Peak, made the greatest contribution. The spirit rice and spirit beast meat he alone produced amounted to more than all the other elders combined, enough to sustain the disciples for several years. Yet no one was surprised, for Dong Zhen's reputation as a glutton was legendary throughout the central province, and he remained the only one among his generation of disciples who refused to practice anidia. Shangguan-kun gazed at the smorgasbord of food hovering above and remarked, "Junior brother Dong, you truly never fail to surprise us." Hearing this, the stout Dong Zhen smiled good-naturedly. "To eat well is a blessing. You see, has it not come in handy now?" The sect master nodded in agreement. "Were it not for junior brother Dong this time, our combined reserves would not have been enough to feed the disciples. Finally, we can rest easy. Even if we are trapped within the Tai Zhengsu for 3 to 5 years, the disciples will not go hungry." As soon as these words were spoken, several other elders grew somber. It has already been 3 days, yet the supreme elders remain motionless. Looking at the current situation, it seems a grave crisis has truly befallen the Tai Zhengsu. If we were truly trapped for 3 to 5 years, the consequences would be unimaginable. The sect master sighed inwardly. It appears he must find a way to contact Shi Qi at all costs. If we can borrow his hand to locate the spare secret jade, Our escape will be far simpler. He then cast his gaze in my direction, only to see that I had nearly finished my meal. Yet I seemed unsatisfied, standing up to scan the dining hall once more, as if searching for any remaining food worth eating. Zuo Qi Mo had temporarily ceased controlling the little Changji, letting it rest within the folds of Shi Qi's robes. Curious, he spoke up. Why is Shi Qi's appetite so voracious? Are 16 dishes still not enough for him? Hearing this, Shu Wuxuan replied, it is likely due to the cultivation technique he practices. After all, that, Wu Ji Dao Zhang, is a divine art refined from 37 top-tier heaven-grade manuals. The more profound the cultivation technique, the greater the energy consumption during training. Dong Zhen added his own explanation. That is correct. Shinichi has not eaten for 3 days, yet he has spent the entire day bitterly practicing the 5 peaks true form first. His body is severely depleted. I fear his digestion is faster than he can even consume the food. That explains why his appetite is so immense. But no sooner had he spoken than his gaze, which was tracking me, suddenly froze. He then shouted, "This is bad!" He is heading toward the kitchen. I still have a top-tier Yunmeng carp that I haven't prepared yet. By no means can he be allowed to see it. Meanwhile, I was still searching for food. In truth, I could feel my cultivation realm rising, even vaguely brushing against the threshold of a breakthrough to the second level of body refining. However, I intentionally suppressed the breakthrough. For when advancing in the body refining realm, the physical form and natural spiritual energy must reach a state of resonance at the limit. Only then will the body be properly empowered after a breakthrough. Therefore, before reaching that critical limit, a cultivator should prioritize tempering the physical strength, rather than rushing the advancement. Based on a rough estimate, the strength of my single arm has already exceeded the threshold of 20,000 jin. If I were to consume one more meal, I would certainly reach the threshold for a breakthrough. Therefore, I must now consume the flesh and blood of a high-grade demonic beast. By leveraging the supreme power of the infinite Daodio treasury, I can convert it into physical strength and successfully achieve a breakthrough to the second level of body refining. As I was calculating this in my mind, suddenly, a crisp, mechanical voice echoed within my consciousness. Ding. Detected that the host has an intense desire for high-quality sustenance. Triggering side quest. Successfully prepare and consume the meat of a high-grade demonic beast that satisfies the senses of sight, aroma, and taste. Upon completion, you will receive a purple-tier attribute reward. Furthermore, during the consumption of the beast's flesh, the efficiency of your body refining digestive technique will be tripled. Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow. I had not expected the reward to be a purple-tier attribute this time. It sounded quite enticing, yet the task would not be easy to complete, primarily because finding the meat of a high-grade demonic beast is no simple matter, as the standard for determining a high-grade beast is its bloodline, rather than its cultivation level or raw strength. The higher the grade of the bloodline, the greater the potential, and the more concentrated the essence within its bones and flesh. The demonic beast meat I had just consumed had only just escaped the category of the mundane. It did not meet my personal standards for a high-grade specimen. Lost in these thoughts, I inadvertently arrived before the storehouse of the refectory, pushed the door open, and stepped into a spacious and well-lit chamber. I saw that the goods within were arranged in an orderly fashion, with various types of demonic beast meat, categorized by their distinct attributes, each placed under the containment of minor formations. My gaze swept across the room, and I quickly spotted a large, transparent sphere hovering in the air at the very top, with a massive white fish swimming within it. I immediately asked the system in my mind, "Does this fish meet the standard of a high-grade demonic beast?" The system replied instantly, "It does. This is a cloud dream carp, possessing a 7th-grade demonic beast bloodline." Hearing this, I felt a surge of joy. Once a beast's bloodline reaches the 9th grade, it can be classified as a divine beast. This fish, bearing a 7th-grade bloodline, was certainly no ordinary creature. It was unlikely that it was even raised here on the 10,000 Beast Peak. Ever since I entered the sect, I had heard the disciples in the refectory gossiping that the master of 10,000 Beast Peak was a peculiar man. He was broad-built, obese, and an elder and peak master of such formidable strength is someone whom no one in the Taiyi True Sect would dare to offend. But in this peculiar situation, with all the sect members having vanished, I naturally had no reason to hold back and reached straight for that prize catch. I discovered that although the fish was still alive, it had already been specially prepared, allowing me to easily secure it. However, at the very moment I seized that dream cloud carp, Dong Zhen cried out in desperation, "My fish! Had I known it would come to this, I should have eaten it myself." Truly, hesitation leads only to defeat, while decisiveness is the key to reaping the rewards. Seeing this, Shu Wuxuan, who stood nearby, could not help but burst into laughter. Among 7th-ranked demonic beasts, The dream cloud carp is considered a supreme treasure. Its flesh is incredibly fragrant and sweet, and every inch of it contains a vast amount of essence from heaven and earth, making it immensely beneficial for cultivators below the nirvana realm. It is truly a wasted stroke of fortune. Who would have thought that the dream cloud carp, which senior brother Deng labored so hard to obtain, would benefit Shi Qi before he even had a chance to taste it? At the same time, many peak masters and elders helplessly clutched their foreheads. Liu Daoji patted Deng Zhen on the shoulder, saying, "Junior brother, it is only one fish. You can simply catch another one in the future." Hearing this, Deng Zhen retorted indignantly, "Senior brother, you speak far too lightly, do you not? That dream cloud carp has been extinct across the central continent. Only the reincarnation old demon of the Six Paths sect manages to raise a single female. To obtain this fry, I not only traded away countless precious treasures, but also agreed to engage in a duel of techniques with him for 3 days and 3 nights. I nearly exhausted myself to death on Six Paths Mountain. Do you truly think it was an easy task?" Hearing this tale of woe, a sense of sympathy stirred within the hearts of the others. For the reincarnation old demon of the Six Paths sect is a demonic practitioner whose wicked reputation echoes throughout the central continent. He delights in bullying juniors and killing others to seize their treasures. Even when facing cultivators of his own level, he insists on forcing them into a duel, and he never lets them off easily. Afterward, the sect leader looked at Deng Zhen with concern. "Junior brother Deng, do not take such reckless risks in the future. That reincarnation old demon has a perverse nature. If some unforeseen accident were to occur during your duel, what would become of you?" Hearing this, Deng Zhen curled his lips into a cold smile. "Sect leader brother, you worry too much. As for a mere reincarnation old demon, even if I cannot defeat him, he will find it impossible to harm me. Besides, as long as the eldest senior sister remains, the Six Paths sect is destined to never rise above us." With those words, Deng Zhen looked confidently toward Yu Xiao. The prestige of the Tai Yi sword sect, which stands at the pinnacle of the world, exists precisely because of their eldest senior sister. 500 years ago, she once fought a battle against a heavenly venerate cultivator of the same cultivation level. In barely over 100 exchanges, he extinguished the opponent's Tao and soul entirely, thereby completely suppressing the great powers of the Central Plains holy region. Hearing Deng Zhen's grand words, Yu Xiaozi smiled gently, then gestured toward the scene unfolding within the refectory below. "Junior brother, it seems your Yunmeng carp is about to perish." Upon hearing this, Deng Zhen's expression shifted violently. He saw me entering the refectory kitchen while carrying a massive fish nearly as tall as myself. Since I did not know how to manipulate the formation, I had no choice but to prepare the meal myself. I tossed the Yunmeng carp onto the floor, and seeing the fish still thrashing about, I struck it with a single, decisive punch. The fish's eyes, previously filled with fury, instantly went clear and glassy. The system's requirement was to consume a high-tiered demonic beast's flesh, perfectly prepared in color, aroma, and taste. I pondered for a moment before deciding on a menu. Grilled fish. Immediately after, I took a kitchen knife, split the Yunmeng carp in two, and laid it flat. Deng Zhen, an experienced connoisseur, became frantic and leaped up the moment he heard I intended to grill the fish. What a waste of heaven's treasures. The fresh, tender, and succulent Yunmeng carp is best suited for steaming. At the very least, it should be braised. How could one possibly grill it? Many surrounding peak masters and elders chimed in, attempting to dissuade me. "Calm yourself, junior brother Deng. The die is cast. This fish is destined for Shi Qi's stomach, and how he chooses to consume it is his own affair. After all, as long as the energy within the beast's flesh is absorbed, what difference does it make whether it is steamed or grilled?" Hearing this, Deng Zhen gritted his teeth and shook his head. How could it be any different? The most primitive essence of life lies in consumption, and the art of eating is itself a profound discipline. In this world of 3,000 great Taos, the Tao of food ranks among the pinnacle, and it is absolutely not something to be treated carelessly. Hearing these words, the crowd recalled that when Deng Zhen established his Tao years ago, the path he attained was the great Dapo of food. However, the problem remained that as I prepared the Yunmeng carp, my objective was twofold: to satisfy my hunger, and to absorb the essence within to further my cultivation. I had absolutely no intention of contemplating the Dabo. Naturally, I would eat it however I pleased. At that very moment, a direct disciple asked, with a hint of curiosity, "What is Shi Qi doing? Is he seasoning the fish? What a truly unique method." The other elders looked down, one after another, only to see me retrieve a gargantuan metal basin and proceed to pour in salt and yellow wine, followed by ginger and scallions for seasoning, finally scouring the fish's back before placing it inside. Shangguan Kun looked at Deng Zhen with curiosity. "Junior brother Deng, so this is how one prepares grilled fish?" Deng Zhen furrowed his brow as well. "I am unsure. Is he perhaps attempting to neutralize the fishy odor? Observing this, the other elders realized that Shi Qi's method of grilling was truly unconventional. They had long since reached the stage of inanition, and even in their early days of cultivation, they had specialized chefs to handle their meals, leaving them unskilled in the culinary arts. Yet, in their memories, even the master chefs in the great restaurants did not include these steps when preparing food. In truth, the reason for this situation was quite simple. In this world of profound mysteries, cultivation is the only true path, and those of great strength can survive for millennia without food. This had caused their daily living skills to fall far behind those of Earth. Simple roasting, for instance, amounted to nothing more than placing food over a flame, waiting for it to cook, and adding a dash of seasoning. Even a gourmet like Dong Zhen possessed no secret culinary methods of his own. Thus, seeing Shi Qi handle the ingredients in such a manner immediately captured his attention. Little did I know that by revealing even a fraction of my skills, I had already caught the eye of these seniors. I proceeded to retrieve some high-grade charcoal from the rear mountain storage. Once the large marinated fish was 8 or 9/10 cooked, I added potatoes, cucumbers, and various vegetables into the large flat pot, then drizzled it with a sauce base stir-fried from an assortment of spices. After working for over half an hour, I finally produced a pot of grilled fish with an intoxicating, mouth-watering aroma. Seeing the unprecedented dish I had crafted, the entire sect was driven to madness by their hunger. A wave of commotion erupted among the inner and outer sect disciples. To think Shi Qi possesses such skill. That fish looks absolutely divine. I never imagined a level 7 demonic beast from the Yunmeng abyss could be prepared in such a way. I can no longer endure this. Whoever has charcoal and fish in their storage ring, I am willing to trade a mid-grade yellow-tier divine ability for them. Even the high-ranking sect members who had long since achieved inanition struggled to suppress the hunger rising within them. Dong Zhen wished he could shatter the barrier, carve a wide opening, and rush out to feast with me to his heart's content. He then let out a mournful sigh. It was I who was mistaken. Steaming or braising are inferior methods. Only grilling is truly to be treasured. This man's culinary realm far surpasses my own. There is no greater tragedy in this world than having such delicacies before one's eyes, yet being unable to partake. Hearing this, the elders did not mock him, for they too were dying of longing. And as I began to lift my chopsticks, the disciples around the elders practiced fasting, and the deacons likewise forced themselves to look away from this spectacle. As time slowly drifted by, the grilled fish was nearly consumed in its entirety. At this moment, Shu Wuxuan suddenly exclaimed, "Look!" Shi Qi was currently undergoing the baptism of spirit energy, with profound light overflowing. His refinement speed could not keep pace with his rate of consumption. As soon as these words were spoken, the elders probed downward in unison, only to see that at this moment, my entire body was flooded with a crimson glow, and steam hissed from my skin. It was as if I were entirely enveloped in a shroud of mist. They recognized this as a sign of absorbing far too much energy. Dong Zhen had originally intended to use this fish to entertain the Holy Son and Holy Daughter, with enough meat to feed 3 or 4 people. Yet now, it had all vanished into my stomach alone. So even with a supreme cultivation technique like the Wuji Dao Zhang, I found it difficult to digest. Realizing this, I suppressed the rising heat, hurriedly swallowed the remaining fish, and ran toward the martial arts arena of the Wanshao Peak. According to the digestive and body-refining methods described in the Wuji Dao Zhang, I had to practice to convert this energy into raw power. Therefore, upon reaching the martial arts arena, I first frantically practiced the 5 mountains true form fist, then proceeded to lift stone weights, stone locks, and various other instruments to temper my strength. As my muscles and bones hummed with a resonant sound, the power within my body and the spirit energy reached a state of ultimate resonance. An invisible barrier seemed to shatter. The heat on my body dissipated entirely, and the crimson glow on my skin returned to its normal state. I clenched both fists. I had finally broken through. A single meal of 7th-level demonic beast meat had done the trick. Not only was my physical body tempered, but my cultivation realm had also advanced to the 2nd layer of body refining. Especially after shattering that barrier, I felt a mysterious, added benefit. After steadying my mind, I immediately sought out a 30,000 jin stone weight, only to be astonished that I could lift it easily with one hand. I then gradually increased the weight to test my limits. I concluded that my extreme single-handed strength had reached 33,000 jin. At this moment, the system's notification chimed in my mind. Congratulations to the host for completing the guiding mission. You have received a purple tier talent attribute. I had made use of every morsel of meat, but I ignored the system's prompt in my mind. Immersed in the joy of the breakthrough, my entire body trembling slightly. My muscles and bones rippled with an immense sense of satisfaction, and as overwhelming fatigue washed over me, I collapsed directly onto the martial arts arena floor. Not long after, the sound of snoring echoed across the silent mountain. At the same time, seeing that I had only reached the 2nd layer of body refining yet possessed a single-handed strength of 33,000 jin, many peak masters and elders were deeply shaken. Shu Wuxuan spoke joyfully. The foundation of Shi Qi is truly formidable. If he were to experience a triple increase in benefits upon breaking through each critical stage of the body-tempering realm, his future achievements would be beyond measure. Yet, alongside this joy, new problems inevitably arose. How was Shi Qi to continue his cultivation from this point forward? His use of the Yunmeng Li this time was merely a stroke of luck. He must find other auxiliary body-tempering manuals in the future. But without a prestigious background or extensive knowledge, how could he possibly know where to find such techniques? If he were to continue fumbling in the dark, he might well squander this magnificent start. The sect master sighed, then glanced at Zuo Qimo beside him. We must establish contact quickly. Junior brother Zuo. Zuo Qimo replied in distress. Senior brother, I am trying, but the little Qiongqi is a failed puppet after all. We must allow it more time. The little Qiongqi puppet was the hope of them all. So Zuo Qimo seized the opportunity, while Shi Qi was resting, to silently exert his divine sense, attempting to upgrade his control over the puppet. After a deep slumber, my flesh, blood, and bones had been thoroughly nourished, and my state had recovered to its peak. I arrived at the refectory for a simple meal of vegetables and soup, then set off for the Gale Valley at the foot of Wanshao Peak. At the entrance of the valley, I read the Stone Steel's introduction to the Gale Valley, which stated that those entering should not exceed the body-tempering realm. Yet many beasts within possessed high-level bloodlines, and with their formidable strength, most resided in the depths of the valley. Those entering the valley must assess their own capabilities. This was a trial ground specifically designated by the sect for body-tempering disciples, and without hesitation, I stepped inside. Before I could even admire the scenery, the system's voice echoed in my ears. Ding! Host has arrived at Gale Valley. Triggering side quest. Complete a kill of any demonic beast. Upon success, you will receive the Golden Attribute Reward, Battle Profound Heart, which allows for the continuous enhancement of battle intelligence during relentless combat. Upon hearing this, I raised an eyebrow. It was a Golden Attribute Reward. It sounded exceptionally reliable, and since slaughtering beasts for training was my original intent, this was a case of killing two birds with one stone. Just as I was silently rejoicing, I failed to notice a large, emerald-green snake lunging from the shadows of the trees beside the path. Yet even though I had not seen the serpent, the moment it launched its strike, my body instinctively leaned back and dodged to the side. The emerald serpent slammed into a massive boulder, and with a thunderous crash, the seemingly solid rock shattered into fragments in every direction. Witnessing this, I immediately assumed a stance to unleash my fist technique. You, overgrown worm, taste the power of my punch. At that very moment, the atmosphere within the secret realm grew scorching hot. Both inner and outer sect disciples watched without blinking, while several elite core disciples identified the origins of that azure-green serpent at a single glance. Someone sighed. Our 10th seat certainly knows how to choose his challenges. Myriad Beasts Peak possesses 3 hunting grounds, suitable for body-refining disciples to cultivate, yet the demonic beasts within Lifeng Valley are undoubtedly the most ferocious. Indeed, this iron-tailed green serpent possesses a Tier 3 bloodline. Its offensive power rivals a full-force strike from a 5th-stage body-refining cultivator. The iron-tailed green serpent is not only formidable in combat but also possesses expert concealment skills. I recall when I first entered the sect 9 years ago, I witnessed it at the valley entrance. Never did I expect it to have survived all these years. To endure for 9 years within Lifeng Valley is no simple feat. Just as tens of thousands of disciples were whispering among themselves, I drove my fist into that massive serpent's head. This single strike, fueled by the explosive force of my entire body and the power of a heaven-grade superior martial technique, unleashed a might far exceeding the strength of 33,000 jin. The iron-tailed green serpent had no time to execute a single maneuver before I ended its life in a heartbeat. Upon witnessing this scene, an uproar broke out within the Taiyi Zhengsu sect. The eyes of countless disciples filled with utter disbelief. A demonic beast comparable to a 5th-stage body-refining cultivator, possessing a Tier 3 bloodline, had been slain, just like that? This Shi Qi is only at the 2nd stage of body refining. He is far too fierce. He is truly a genius, not seen in a million years. But tell me, why did the iron-tailed green serpent stand perfectly still when Shi Qi attacked just now? You obviously didn't recognize the martial technique used. Even a demonic beast would be stunned into submission by that aura, wouldn't it? Does this junior brother ever actually listen to the elders' lectures? Once a high-grade martial skill is mastered, it manifests an incredibly terrifying aura. This aura exerts a powerful suppression against any creature weaker than the practitioner. That is correct. Shi Qi has cultivated the supreme art of our sect, the heaven-grade superior, 5 peaks true form fist, and has even reached the minor accomplishment stage. Therefore, the aura behind that strike was far more potent than any of us could have imagined. At this moment, Shu Wuxuan nodded in satisfaction. For a first real combat trial, This performance was truly commendable. One must realize that those with high natural talent for cultivation are not necessarily gifted in real combat. Gaps in battle intuition must be bridged through countless encounters. That Shi Qi could slay the iron-tailed green serpent with a single blow is the first step toward cultivating the Sheikh, invincible heart that will define his future. However, he acted with too much brute force and failed to hold back any of his trump cards. Still, it is of little consequence. He can be guided and refined slowly as time goes on. He mused silently to himself before turning his gaze back down to the trial. At that moment, I had just finished off the demonic beast, and the system's reward notification chimed immediately afterward. Congratulations to the host for completing the mission. You have been granted the gold grade talent, Martial Heart of Valor. These keywords seem somewhat mystical. I fear their true efficacy can only be measured in actual combat. Although I was unaccustomed to slaying a demonic beast for the first time, I quickly adjusted my state of mind and continued deeper into Lefeng Valley. Throughout this trial, the valiant heart of battle began to demonstrate its true value. The more I fought, the more fluid and natural my movements became. By now, I had reached the center of the valley and discovered a great river, dividing Lefeng Valley into two distinct halves. The strongest demonic beast I encountered in the front half possessed a third-rank bloodline, comparable to a cultivator at the 6th level of body temperament. Even though I had yet to set foot in the latter half of the valley, I could easily discern that it held far greater perils. This suited my intentions perfectly. Whether employing the valiant heart of battle talent or cultivating the Wuji scripture, neither path can flourish without the tempering of life and death struggle. With this thought, I leaped across the river, plunging straight into the latter half of Lefeng Valley. Observing my actions, many disciples watching from within the secret realm frowned. Is Shi Qi being a bit too reckless? Despite cultivating a supreme divine art like the Wuji scripture, is he, in the end, merely a mortal body? To dare enter the latter half of Lefeng Valley at this moment, perhaps he does not understand that among demonic beasts, the disparity in bloodline dictates an insurmountable gap in strength. That is reasonable. Just moments ago, Shi Qi slew a beast, a creature with a third-rank bloodline equivalent to the 6th level of body temperament, and thus his confidence has become vastly inflated, leading him to believe that the latter half of Lefeng Valley holds little danger. In that case, he is about to face a bitter lesson. At this moment, I was walking directly along the central path, and I could sense numerous formidable auras hidden around the road. The deeper I went, the stronger they became, and my heart began to surge with excitement. Following this, I no longer concealed my presence and directly released my own aura. In the eyes of the demonic beasts, such an action was nothing short of a provocation. I had not traveled far before a gray bear emerged from the forest. Its fur was exceptionally long, and its claws glimmered with a crimson light. On the Taiyi Zhengsu, some disciples recognized its origin. This is a 4th-rank bloodline beast, the Fireclaw Bear. This beast possesses impenetrable defenses, and its claws deal devastating damage. It seems Shi Qi's first battle in the latter half of the valley has brought him poor fortune. Perhaps no other beast will even need to intervene. The Fireclaw Bear alone is enough for Shi Qi to experience the true ruthlessness of Lefeng Valley. By then, he will surely temper his arrogance and realize when to retreat. Just as everyone was thinking this, a series of shocked cries suddenly erupted from the outer sect. It turned out that the battle below had already erupted. I saw the fire-maned bear charge forward first. I immediately retreated, dodging its crushing downward blow. I then took the opportunity to mock it. Little bear, where is your martial honor? Although the beast could not understand human language, it sensed that I held it in contempt. It roared and charged again, its massive paws whipping up scorching winds with every strike. Thanks to the reinforcement of the battle bear heart, I relied solely on my upper body maneuvers to dodge every single attack. This spectacle left the spectators stunned. Zhu Wuxuan, the master of the transmission peak, was visibly agitated. This was no longer mere footwork, but a manifestation of true combat mastery. He was continuously refining his combat techniques in the midst of battle. Yun Xiao also nodded in agreement. Indeed, that is the case. From the previous matches, I already observed that when Shi Qi fights, his capacity for learning and his powers of observation are terrifyingly potent. I have never seen anyone with combat talent equal to his. As these words were spoken, countless disciples gasped in shock, and the other elders chimed in with their congratulations. Congratulations, Sect Master. Our sect has gained another prodigy to carry on our legacy. His future achievements will be immeasurable. It is not impossible that he might one day restore the past glory of the era of Sect Master Song. Hearing this, the Sect Master was just about to add a few more grandiose remarks. Suddenly, he heard the disciples around him cry out in alarm. Shi Qi has encountered another demonic beast. He looked down and, sure enough, saw that the fighting below had flared up once more. It turned out that, after winning the previous match, I did not depart, and I quickly encountered another formidable foe. This beast was even stronger than the fire-maned bear, yet I slew it within a few exchanges. Witnessing this, many elders nodded in satisfied approval. When Shi Qi killed the fire-made bear, he didn't even use his full strength. It was no different from an instant kill. It is only natural for him to keep pushing forward. Although this new beast was able to tangle with him for a while, it is clear that Shi Qi still has energy to spare. I estimate he will continue to venture deeper. As expected, Shi Qi pressed onward. Let us see. This time he must face a 5th stage bloodline demonic beast. This is incredible, but will he be in danger? Looking at his demeanor, it seems Shi Qi will not rest until he has slain it. I have lost count of how many rounds have passed. Although Shi Qi has sustained injuries, the situation has shifted from a disadvantage to an advantage. His combat talent is truly peerless. He has actually slain a rank 5 bloodline demonic beast. It was struck down by Shi Qi after 80 exchanges. The 5 Peaks True Form Fist, even at the minor completion stage, possesses such overwhelming power. Truly, it is the premier martial technique of our sect. Surely Shi Qi should return to rest now? What is this? Why is he continuing to press forward? He has already reached the territory of the rank 5 bloodline demonic beasts. This is far too dangerous. If he encounters 2 beasts attacking in tandem, his life may very well be in jeopardy. Damn it, we are anxious here, but he cannot hear a word we say. Yet, at this moment, although my clothes are stained with blood, my spirit remains exceptionally vigorous, because the majority of this blood comes from a variety of demonic beasts. That a mortal physique like mine could achieve this feat is entirely due to the body-tempering method born of slaughter within the infinite Dalio treasury. This technique allows one to utilize combat to simultaneously increase actual combat experience and physical fortitude, coupled with the valiant combat heart. It makes every strike count. Through this reckless path of slaughter, my life essence and physical strength have surged. Although I have yet to verify it, I can sense my power. It has undoubtedly increased significantly. Since the demonic beasts I hunt are of high rank, the effectiveness of the cultivation technique grows more refined with every battle. This is the very reason why the more I fight, the more spirited I become. Meanwhile, the disciples in the Taiyi True Void remain ignorant of these mysteries, feeling only profound shock. Why is Shi Qi, ranked in the lower tiers, so valiant to slaughter his way from the entrance of Lefeng Valley deep into the latter half? This is truly terrifying. Even the late Elder Song, when he was alive, could only reach this point, could he not? I fear he may have even surpassed him. After all, Elder Song possessed the peerless hegemon body, which inherently granted him an advantage on the path of body refinement and close-quarters combat, whereas our Shi Qi possesses only a mortal physique. Indeed, to see a mortal body stand shoulder to shoulder with a hegemon body, only the Holy Sun remained silent, his heart filled with an unconcealable sense of defeat. Meanwhile, the gathered elders were overcome with excitement, yet Deng Zhen alone wore a heavy expression. He watched that figure drawing ever closer to the finish line, hesitating, as if he had something difficult to say. Sensing something amiss, the sect master asked with concern, "Junior brother Deng, what is troubling you?" Deng Zhen seemed as though he had committed a grave, heaven-shaking error. "Sect master, there is a matter I am uncertain whether I should speak of." The sect master, currently in high spirits, laughed heartily at his response. "We have been brothers for thousands of years. If there is something to say, speak plainly. Do you truly think I would blame you?" The other elders laughed as well. "Junior brother Deng, today our sect has gained a supreme prodigy. This is a joyous occasion of the highest order. Even if you had caused a catastrophe, the sect would shield you." Seeing the many elders thumping their chests in assurance, Deng Zhen felt deeply moved. He decided to withhold no more. In truth, it is not a small matter. It is simply that the supreme prodigy of our Taiyi sect may be on the verge of death. As soon as these words fell, the laughter vanished, and the sect master's face darkened. "Junior brother Deng, what kind of delirious nonsense are you spouting? How could you curse a member of the younger generation?" Deng Zhen hurriedly explained. "Sect master, how could I be such a person? The reason I say this is because, at the finish line, in the Lifeng Valley of the Back Mountain, I have kept a captive, primordial savage king." Hearing this, the sect master's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? You are keeping a primordial savage king, and I was not aware of it?" Deng Zhen forced a smile. "This was a fortuitous encounter I seized while at the southern domain, snatched from the gathering place of great demons within the endless mountains. I originally intended to tame it in secret and offer a surprise to the sect, but plans could not keep pace with change." Deng Zhen's voice grew weaker as he spoke. Who would have expected that the portly, seemingly upright Deng Zhen had secretly been harboring an ancient demon beast within the sect, causing the transmission peak master, Shu Wu, to grow enraged. "Junior brother Deng, a matter of such magnitude, why did you not inform the sect? The primordial savage king is an 8th-rank bloodline beast. It is but a single step away from becoming a divine beast. A fully matured primordial savage king can reach the realm of to possess strength comparable to a human race Saint King, and keep such a ferocious beast in Lefeng Valley. That is truly immense audacity. Yu Xiaoyao frowned. Junior brother Tong, what is the true strength of this primordial savage king? Tong Zhen hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. It is still merely a tiger cub. Yet a single strike possesses the force of 1,000,000 caddies. Furthermore, descendants of ancient bloodlines all possess innate defensive supernatural powers. I estimate that for a human cultivator to slay it, they would need at least peak soul-refining realm cultivation, and must utilize an imperial-grade technique or higher. Only by exhausting it from a distance for several days could one wear it down to death. As for engaging it in close-quarters combat, forgive my bluntness, but fighting a descendant of ancient bloodline up close is suicidal. I cannot imagine anyone foolish enough to attempt it. If one were forced to consider it, they would surely need to be equipped with protective divine weapons and talismans. The cultivator themselves would need at least 7th-layer spirit-severing realm cultivation to have any hope of survival. As these words were spoken, the hearts of the elders sank. This ferocious beast was certainly not something Shi Qi could handle. Their conversation was relayed by the inner disciples nearby, and it quickly spread throughout the Taiyi sect. In an instant, everyone was stunned. Elder Dong was actually raising a primordial savage king on the myriad beast peak. What? I thought the primordial savage king had been extinct for ages. This primordial savage king is not far from Shi Qi. Does that not mean he is in grave danger? Shi Qi, who was currently the subject of everyone's concern, had no idea of the situation. After a brief rest, he suddenly turned his head to look deep into the mountain valley. In a moment of unease, I seemed to hear a low, rumbling beast roar. Though the sound was not loud, it caused my heart to skip a beat. I then shoki my aura and carefully proceeded along the narrow path. Half an hour later, I leaped onto a large tree to scout ahead and discovered a gigantic tiger-type spirit beast at the end of the valley. It was ferociously gnawing on the carcass of another spirit beast, as if it sensed my presence. It raised its head and stared directly in this direction. My heart jolted. Its sensory abilities were truly this formidable. An aura this fierce is far beyond what I am currently capable of handling. Just as I was observing it, a system notification suddenly echoed in my mind. Detected that the host has encountered an 8th-rank primordial savage king, triggering the World of the Strong main quest. The host is tasked with slaying or subduing it within 50 days. Upon success, you will receive 3 spins of the lucky wheel. From these spins you may obtain locked talents, divine weapons, superior equipment, divine cultivation techniques, and other rewards. Upon hearing this, I was instantly stunned. This system really has plenty of tricks. 50 days of cultivation is not exactly abundant, but it is not entirely desperate either. Yet my current strength is still far from sufficient to match this demonic beast. One must at least reach the peak of the body tempering stage to engage in a proper battle. This was done to elevate my own strength. Every day I immersed myself in the Lifeng Valley, pushing my body tempering technique to its absolute limit through constant slaughter. Aside from the territory of the Taigu Savage King, I have swept through every other region within the valley. Observing my cautious yet ruthless performance, the other elders finally felt at ease. They all sighed in admiration, declaring that I am truly a favored son of the heavens. In the blink of an eye, the 3rd day after I left the valley arrived. At this moment, I was practicing my fist techniques on the training grounds when I suddenly felt a powerful surge of strength descend upon me. I knew I had successfully achieved the 3rd stage of body tempering. I then grabbed the stone weights on the ground, continuously increasing the load to test my limits. I finally confirmed the strength of my 3rd stage body tempering. My one-armed lifting power had reached 10,000 jin. Seeing this, my heart filled with joy. With this kind of divine strength, if I were to travel back to the modern world, I would be a veritable Superman. Just as I was lost in thought, I heard the sound of metal scraping against the ground beneath my feet. It turned out to be the little Qiongqi, which had been hiding. It used its 4 legs to clamp onto a book, sliding across the ground toward me. I took the book from its grasp, flipped through it briefly, and discovered that it was a manual recording the cultivation methods for the body tempering stage. Within it, it was written that when a cultivator reaches critical thresholds during body tempering, the body's strength would be double. Pursuing this path does not require haste. Rather, before each breakthrough, one must hone the body to its absolute limit to solidify one's foundation. An ordinary cultivator simply exerts their maximum effort. A heaven chosen, however, must utilize these 3 opportunities for doubling strength to elevate themselves to the fullest extent. I read the contents of the book with astonishment. 3rd stage of body tempering. One-arm strength exceeds 8,000 jin. 6th stage, over 40,000 jin. 9th stage, over 160,000 jin. This is the supreme foundation. I then made up my mind. I must forge this supreme foundation and ascend to the heavenly venerate realm with the most perfect stance possible. However, I am currently faced with a dilemma. The current efficacy of my body tempering techniques, based on slaughter and the stock of high-grade beast meat in the storeroom is running low. At this moment, I am in dire need of another method to temper my body to its absolute limit. Just as I was agonizing over this, I discovered various physical tempering techniques recorded at the back of the manual, such as the medicinal bath vein warming method. After carefully reading through it, I was overjoyed and immediately scooped up the little Shi Qi at my feet. Tai, you truly possess great spiritual intelligence. You know exactly what is troubling me. Let us first head to Baikao Peak to see if we can find the medicinal bath vein warming method. With that, I immediately steered my flying shuttle toward Baikao Peak. Many elders witnessed this scene, all of them letting out a sigh of relief. Shu Wuxuan was so moved he nearly wept. After such a long effort, Shi Qi had finally seen the light. It seems that after discovering the existence of physical tempering techniques, Shi Qi intends to strive for the legendary Supreme Foundation. Shangguan Kun nodded in agreement, wondering if he would seek the medicinal bath vein warming method or the flesh-nourishing pill method. Liu Daoji laughed and replied, "Either one makes little difference. After all, our junior brother Wang is a true master in this field." Meanwhile, Wang Xiaozheng, the peak master of Baikao Peak, chuckled with pride upon hearing his fellow disciples' praises. Wang Xiaozheng not only possessed peerless alchemy skills, but he was also an expert in herbs and spiritual flora, having personally improved and researched many physical tempering techniques. Even the Saint Son and Saint Daughter received his guidance during their tempering process. While they had yet to forge a supreme foundation, they had reached the pinnacle of excellence. At this moment, I was busy piloting my flying shuttle. The system's voice resonated once more. Host has achieved the third layer of physical tempering. Activated time-limited check-in mission. Arrive at the Baikao Peak Medicinal Garden. Reward: Gold Tier Talent. Intelligent Medicinal Heart. Grants a heart of absolute sincerity and clarity toward the medicinal properties of flora, significantly increasing comprehension in this field. I raised an eyebrow. This system is quite clever, activating such a simple check-in mission at exactly this moment. Could it be worried that I might struggle to comprehend the tempering techniques found on Baikao Peak? As I pondered this, I arrived at my destination shortly after, then hurried toward the medicinal garden, eager to test the medicinal bath vein warming method first. Just as I reached the entrance of the medicinal garden, the system notification rang right on cue. Time-limited check-in mission complete. Rewards have been issued. Hearing this, I knew the talent had taken effect, and I immediately sought a medicinal prescription to test it out. Suddenly, Tai leaped from my arms and began waddling in a specific direction. Seeing this, I quickly followed. Guided by the beast, I arrived at a grand hall on Baikao Peak overflowing with books. Amidst the chaotic piles of scrolls, it dug out a specialized manual on medicinal baths. Watching this, I gave it a thumbs up. Truly impressive. Tai, you are indeed the local expert. You know this place better than anyone. Immediately thereafter, I took the several medicinal bath formulas and began to examine them closely. Upon my first glance, it was clear that these were far from simple. Although I had never before delved into the knowledge of herbs, an innate intuition stirred within me, allowing me to judge the potency and efficacy of these formulas. I furrowed my brow and muttered to myself, "This formula is mediocre, and this one is utterly common. Who on earth researched these? To use these for a medicinal bath to warm the meridians is nothing short of an insult. This one possesses a shred of competence, yet only a shred. None of them reach the standard of efficacy I require." What I did not realize was that Wang Xiaozheng had been rendered speechless with indignation by these remarks. What did he mean by this? He actually dared to cast doubt upon the medicinal formulas of a scholar who had spent over 3,000 years in research, such as myself. Hearing these words, the other elders rushed to pacify him. "Junior brother Wang, stay calm. Why would you lower yourself to argue with a mere junior? What for? Shi Qi possesses shallow knowledge. It is only reasonable that he fails to grasp the profound mysteries within your formulas." Listening to the counsel of others, Wang Xiaozheng's mood gradually stabilized, though he cast an irritable glance downward. I do not blame him for his lack of understanding, but he has no right to be so loud-mouthed, nor to point out flaws in my work. Does he even understand what herbs and spiritual plants are, that he dares to call these formulas mediocre and claim they do not meet his standards? Hearing Wang Xiaozheng's grievances, the elders coughed while offering further reassurances, fearing that he might lose his temper again. Yet the lord of Tiangong Peak, Liu Dao, bluntly asked a single question. "So, is your formula truly of a mediocre standard?" As soon as these words were spoken, the others looked toward him in disbelief. Shangguan Kun sighed and shook his head, secretly lamenting that these boorish blacksmiths truly lacked the ability to read the atmosphere. Hearing this, Wang Xiaozheng's face flushed red as he explained, "Senior brother Liu, while this formula of mine certainly cannot compare to the medicinal baths passed down by the ancestral master, in this current era, The world has undergone great transformations, and many spiritual herbs have long since gone extinct, rendering the ancient formulas impossible to use. These formulas, though created casually, may not be top tier, but to call them good is certainly no exaggeration. Hearing this response, everyone present understood the situation clearly. These medicinal bath formulas were not inherently poor, but when compared against Shi Qi's 9th-tier aptitude in the scripture library, they were indeed an insult. Afterward, the sect master glanced at the unconvinced Wang Xiaozhang. Very well. If Shi Qi meant no offense, let this matter rest. It is time for Shi Qi to find the appropriate formula. Junior brother Wang, junior brother Zuo, the two of you should cooperate. Since the sect master had spoken, Wang Xiaozhang ceased his complaints and stood side by side with Zuo Qimo. Pointing toward the location where the true, top-tier medicinal formulas were stored, Zuo Qimo immediately commanded the scrap metal Qi to fly around me. Just as I was placing the medicinal prescriptions back onto the table, I pondered to myself, something did not add up. Taiyi Zhen Men has passed down its legacy for tens of millions of years. How could Feng Yaoyu's attainment be limited to only this level? Either the apothecary elder took the Feng Qua with him when the sect withdrew, or I have yet to find the correct place where they are kept. At that moment, I felt a strange movement beneath my feet. Discovering the small Qi was circling around the hem of my trousers, my eyes lit up, and I immediately commanded it to lead the way. True enough, it scurried down a narrow path within the hall. I followed it into a meditation chamber and noticed it stopping at the corner of a drawer within the room. I pulled the drawer open and, as expected, found a prescription lying inside. Seeing this, my heart swelled with joy, and I immediately picked it up to study it closely. The 9-turn golden dragon decoction. The primary ingredients are a branch of 1,000-year-old golden crow vine and 9 drops of lunar jade essence. The secondary ingredients include an ounce of azure dragonwood heart blood and falling flow gold sand. After reading the entire scroll, I narrowed my eyes. Although this prescription far exceeds the previous ones, its physical enhancement is still insufficient to forge a supreme foundation. The time required for consumption is also too long. It would not be enough to face the heavenly tribulation 3 years from now, I thought, while pacing back and forth in the meditation chamber. After a long while, a bold idea sparked in my mind. If the prescriptions here do not suit my needs, then why not simply craft a new one myself? Even though I am not versed in the pharmacology of spirit plants, I possess the innate talent of the medicinal heart to harmonize these herbs. The more I contemplated it, the more I felt this plan was viable. With that, I let out a jubilant shout. I shall create a one-of-a-kind prescription, one capable of helping a cultivator forge a supreme foundation. I then returned the prescription to the drawer and headed straight for the herb garden. As for the elders who heard my declaration, they could hardly believe their ears to abandon ready-made prescriptions in favor of creating one from scratch. Could this truly be the right path? Wang Xiaozhang heard my words and nearly fainted from frustration. You claim the prescriptions I wrote casually are inferior. You say the masterpiece I poured 1,000 years of effort into is worthless? I simply cannot tolerate such an insult. Even the sect master could no longer stand by my side. He too felt that my current behavior was truly arrogant beyond measure. Xu Wuxuan, master of the Chuangong Peak, let out a deep sigh. A true heaven-gifted prodigy should possess an invincible spirit, but not blind arrogance, nor the pretense of expertise in a field they do not understand, as that will only lead to their own ruin. In my opinion, compared to Shi Qi's cultivation progress, it is his temperament that requires the most development. The others followed suit, echoing his sentiments. Shi Qi's behavior today is indeed far too insolent. While his talent may be unrivaled within our sect, how much could he possibly understand about the study of medicinal herbs? Most importantly, the person he casts suspicion upon is not some ordinary elder, but Wang Xiaozhang, the master of the herb garden. Elder Wang's mastery of herbalism is considered world-class, with few who could ever hope to rival him. This 9-turn golden dragon decoction is the finest body-tempering prescription I have ever witnessed. For Shi Qi to claim he can create something superior, is he not simply daydreaming in broad daylight? Hearing these words, Elder Wang felt somewhat appeased, yet he still glowered down at the boy who had dared to hold his formula in such contempt. I regret even bringing it out for you. If you have such capability, then by all means, do not use it. Hearing this, the other elders exchanged glances, and Liu Daozhe immediately patted his shoulder to console him. Junior brother Wang, Shi Qi, is admittedly a bit arrogant, but he is a youth lacking in perspective. It is normal for him to make a fool of himself occasionally. There is no need to take it to heart. You should still guide him for now, and let him return to using the 9-turn golden dragon decoction for his bath. Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang sighed. That same old rhetoric again. Very well, I shall spare him this time. Just then, he looked toward where Ji Mimo was preparing to control the puppet beast once more. only to see me sitting amidst a pile of books in the herb garden's main hall, engrossed in reading a volume of An Exposition on Spirit Herbs. Wang Xiaozhang's eyes widened in disbelief. Is he actually studying it? That book had been written by his own hand, but because the content was so complex and convoluted, he had never shown it to anyone outside. Yet, he watched me reading with extreme focus, at times appearing enlightened, at others, filled with intense delight. Just moments ago he was furious at my impudence, but seeing me now, reading his own work with such sincerity, his anger could no longer find purchase. The sect master approached with a hearty laugh. Junior brother Wang, it seems Shi Qi understands you well after all, but the path of herbalism is vast and profound. Junior brother Wang has studied for over 1,000 years to achieve his current status. Of what use is it for Shi Qi to observe him now? Could he truly be intending to surpass junior brother Wang and innovate a new formula himself? Having said this, even the elder himself felt a seed of doubt in his heart. Shi Qi should have been able to perceive the underlying principles, should he not? Especially after examining the commentary on spirit herbs, he ought to have grasped the immense difficulty involved. Why does he remain stubbornly sequestered in the library? And why are the disciples within the sect whispering so intensely? I had assumed that when the 10th senior brother spoke with such arrogance, he had some grand master plan. But the result is merely learning on the spot? Yet his reading speed is unnaturally fast. He couldn't possibly be attempting to create the body tempering formula, could he? How is that even possible? Top-tier warming pulse formulas are the closely guarded secrets of great sects, the product of generations of painstaking labor. If Shi Qi were to produce a formula superior to Elder Wang's, I would consume every paving stone of the Saintess Hall. But in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. They observed that I not only maintained that relentless pace of turning pages, but had also entered the medicinal garden several times, meticulously cross-referencing various spirit herbs and fungi. Every one of them began to doubt their own senses. This situation persisted until the 4th day, when I finally closed the last book, shut my eyes in silent contemplation for a moment, and began to write upon a blank sheet of paper. The elders in the Taiyi Zhengsu watched without blinking, especially Wang Xiaozhang, who stared intently at the page the moment I put brush to paper. As I finished the formula, he read the characters aloud. The primary ingredients are 3 live fire crimson fruits, 9 drops of profound underworld true water, a stalk of earth meridian purple spirit lingji as a secondary ingredient, 2 tails of azure dragonwood heart blood, 5 kimin of white tiger sharp gold sand as a catalyst, and a set of golden winged heavenly silkworm molts. His voice grew lower as he read. The elders all turned toward him, only to see Wang Xiaozhang's face darken in rejection. Absurd! What kind of formula is this? It is clearly a poison recipe. Live fire crimson fruit and profound underworld true water cannot coexist in one formula. Otherwise, it will trigger a turbulence of spiritual energy, causing the user's meridians to rupture. Golden-winged heavenly silkworm molt is inherently a lethal toxin, and while white tiger sharp gold sand can clear the orifices, using it alongside azure dragonwood heartblood will cause metal to overcome wood, severely damaging the liver meridians. If one were truly to bathe using this method, I fear no one could survive it. For the past few days they have attempted to control the puppet beast, trying to make contact with Shi Qi, but the results were all failures, as he had become completely immersed in the study of medicinal herbs. Seeing such a spectacle, the elders could only watch on, helpless. They thought that after Shi Qi fumbled a few times without results, he would naturally give up, and then obediently use Wang Xiaozhang's formula to temper his body. But who could have expected that while he indeed failed to create a tempering formula, he had instead concocted a top-tier poison? If they let him continue, and he enters the bath using this concoction, would he not be soaking himself to death? Although Wang Xiaozhang was both angry and frustrated, he did not wish to watch a living soul perish right before his eyes, due to the misuse of medicine. And the sect master, at this moment, issued a stern command. It cannot continue, junior brother Zuo. No matter what, you must stop Shi Qi. Zuo Qimo quickly assured him, Sect master, I will do my utmost. After a period of testing, he became increasingly proficient at controlling the puppet beast. After casting the puppet's secret art, one could see, within the main hall of Bai Kao Peak, the little Qiangqi puppet raised its head to look at me, then rammed straight into my calf. But I was completely focused on the medicinal formula, and only glanced at it once, saying, Iron puppet, be good. Go off and play by yourself. After that, I took the formula, and headed out the door. The elders saw this scene, and turned their gazes toward Zuo Qimo, a silent pressure weighing upon him. Zuo Qimo gritted his teeth and intensified his control, and under the continuous influx of divine sense, the little Qiongqi wobbled into the air and stuck closely to my side, attempting to draw my attention. But at this moment, my entire focus was set upon the medicinal formula, and I fundamentally did not notice the anomaly of the iron puppet. The Lihuo pearl fruit belongs to the grade of heaven and earth treasures, and is even more potent than the Swanming true water. Therefore, one cannot choose a type Otherwise, the properties of the latter would be completely overwhelmed, causing an imbalance in the primary medicinal ingredients. 1,000 years would suffice, yet the Li Huo Zhu fruits in this medicinal garden are mostly 10,000 years old, or even 100,000 years old. The margin for error is slim, so I walked while pondering, soon arriving beneath the Li Huo tree. At this moment, I turned back, and discovered that the little Shi Qi was still following me, continuously shaking its head. Seeing this, I felt a sense of admiration. Judging by its familiarity with the garden, its relationship with Elder Wang must be quite significant. Now that the entire sect has retreated, leaving only this creature behind, yet it remains dedicated to protecting the sect's assets, fearing that I am merely a disciple, attempting to steal the fruits, which would result in punishment from the elder, is truly moving. I smiled and patted its head, acknowledging that taking things without permission is indeed theft. I understand this principle. But little one, now that only the two of us remain in the entire sect, this tree has effectively become ownerless. I am the sole disciple of Taiyi Zhenmin, so taking these for my own use cannot be considered theft. No sooner had I spoken than the little Qiangqi stopped shaking its head, leaving the elders of Taiyi Zhenmin speechless. They never expected that I would rather suspect the puppet beast of obstructing me, all to justify seizing the fruits in the garden for myself, rather than questioning whether there was a flaw in my own medicinal formula. After all, I had only studied herbal knowledge for 3 days, yet dared to concoct a self-written formula. My self-confidence was truly excessive. Thus, everyone could only watch helplessly as I plucked a Li Huo Zhu fruit from the tree, intentionally choosing one that was clearly not yet ripe. This scene left many disciples speechless. An intersect disciple sighed. Even I can see the poor quality of that fruit, yet he still plucked it? Can it be that after studying herbs for 3 days, he still cannot discern the age of a spiritual plant? Hearing this, the other disciples wore strange expressions. My previous appearance of reading with such intensity had led them to take me seriously. They had assumed I possessed some unique ability, but by deliberately choosing an unripe Li Huo Zhu fruit, I had revealed that I am fundamentally unskilled in the way of herbs. After all, the ripeness of such spiritual fruit is easily distinguished by its appearance and spiritual aura. Even an ordinary disciple can discern it. They began to murmur. If this can be considered a formula, then I could write one just as easily. So what exactly was his motive for refusing to use the formula written by Elder Wang? Must be that his arrogance grew, because he realizes his talent is exceptional, right? Others spend 1,000 years to achieve greatness in the study of medicinal herbs, yet he wants to stand shoulder to shoulder with them after only 3 days of self-study. It is truly baffling how he thinks. With him causing such chaos, it is no wonder he is on the verge of bringing about his own demise. With such immense talent for cultivation, why must he be so stubborn about such trivial matters? If he truly ends up destroying himself, he will have set a new, infamous record for the geniuses of this generation. He has reached the medicinal immersion stage. Indeed, while others use medicinal immersion to nourish their meridians and surge with physical strength, Shi Qi's attempt is liquefying his very own body. At this point, even the elders are powerless to intervene. They can only lament that one who seeks his own death cannot be saved. Look quickly. Shi Qi has gathered nearly every ingredient in the formula. Could he truly be intending to immerse himself in it? The elders furrow their brows as they watch me below. I have moved a large cauldron into place, and am currently adding the medicinal herbs and spirit grasses required by the formula. The little Qiangqi by my side continues to issue frantic warnings. Every possible method has been exhausted, yet I remain completely lost within my own world. It is enough to infuriate anyone to the point of collapse. The sect master lets out a long sigh. So be it. Life and death are matters of destiny. He then closes his eyes, unable to bear the sight of the situation unfolding below. Among the crowd, only the holy son, Li Zhengyun, is truly stirred. His heart pounds rhythmically without pause. Ever since the incident with Shi Qi began, he has continuously sought his own end, yet every single time, he has turned danger into fortune. All the while, he has relentlessly tormented Li Zhengyun's state of mind. Now this man has devised yet another scheme, attempting to immerse himself in a lethal medicinal bath. I refuse to believe you can turn the tides once more, he thinks. As he contemplates this, he envisions himself returning to the position of the sect's premier disciple. He stares intensely at the scene unfolding below. Because the wuxiang root is rare, and the hongmeng purple qi dissipates easily, this opportunity presents itself only once. I focus my spirit, calming my mind, and stabilizing my concentration within the cauldron. The discomfort within my body begins to slowly fade away. My body, my meridians, and my very foundation all welcome a profound metamorphosis. At that same moment, seeing me immersed in the medicinal bath, safe and sound, both disciples and elders are struck dumb with astonishment. Lu Daozhen turns his head to look at Wang Xiaozhang. Shi Qi is not dead, "Old Wang, you reported false intelligence, leading us all to be deceived like this." Wang Xiaozhang looks down in disbelief as well. After his mind races, he strikes his forehead in sudden realization. "I understand now. It is the Wuxiang root." Seeing the confused expressions on everyone's faces, he explains excitedly to the gathering. "That is the only Wuxiang root remaining in our sect, planted by the master of the medicinal garden from the 105th generation. It has been 2 million years since that day." Shi Qi utilized this Wuxiang root with its incredibly high age as a medicinal catalyst, while strictly controlling the proportions of the other ingredients. The age and dosage of the spirit herbs finally reached a delicate equilibrium, ensuring that the various sources of energy within this formula no longer conflicted, but instead harmonized and complemented one another. It is truly masterful. The more he explained, the more excited he became. By the end, he was even gesticulating with his hands. The elders began to grasp his meaning. Shi Qi had discovered the singular path of balance within a prescription filled with mutually repellent medicinal properties. This was far beyond conventional logic. It is difficult to believe that he single-handedly created a top-tier body-tempering formula in a mere 3 days. At this very moment, Wang Xiaozhang discovered something perplexing. That is not right. I see the spiritual energy above his head condensing into a bone-like shape, heat radiating from his body. And yet there is another source of energy, quite foreign, that does not belong to any of the spirit herbs in this formula. What could this possibly be? He stared down closely to investigate. Just then, a voice suddenly echoed out. It was the primordial purple energy. Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang instinctively looked up, and seeing who had arrived, he quickly cupped his hands in respect. This person was none other than the Supreme Elder, Lan Zhong. Lan Zhong appeared this time without revealing a shred of his pressure, instead softly answering Wang Xiaozhang's doubts. Within this medicinal bath, Shi Qi has added a primary ingredient that you all failed to notice, and that is a strand of primordial purple energy, which was born with the dawn, and subsequently channeled here. As these words fell, everyone present was shaken to their core. Wang Xiaozhang looked at him in utter astonishment. Could it be that even primordial purple energy can be actively harvested? Lan Zhong nodded. A Saint King level expert, capable of stealing the very foundations of heaven and earth for their own use, can seize it with a simple wave of their hand. But for Shi Qi to achieve this, it is likely thanks to the Wuxiang root, which possesses the ability to channel a strand of primordial purple energy into the medicine. Though to succeed, there must surely be other hidden conditions. For instance, the timing and the order in which the herbs were added. Even this old man cannot discern those details and can only... Upon hearing this, the elders were rendered speechless. Such techniques could only be executed by a Saint King, yet he had achieved it while only at the 3rd level of body tempering. This revelation shattered their entire perception of reality, and Wang Xiaozhang was shaken to his very core. Shi Qi, a mere novice who had only studied medicinal herbs for 3 days, possessed such world-shaking talent. Reflecting on how he had berated this very medicinal formula as a lethal concoction just 3 days ago, Wang Xiaozhang's face flushed deep crimson, a sense of overwhelming helplessness washing over his entire being. I have studied this path for 1,000 years, yet I am surpassed by someone with only 3 days of study. The sect master patted his shoulder. Junior brother Wang, do not belittle yourself. As I said before, extraordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Shi Qi is a once-in-a-million-year genius for our sect, the first mortal body in history to shatter the shackles of his own limitations. So it is no surprise that such feats occur around him. Hearing the sect master's consolation, Wang Xiaozhang felt much more at ease, yet he began to mutter to himself in his heart. It seems that when Shi Qi was first writing the prescription, the sect master did not believe he would succeed either. Yet now he shifts his tone to praise how extraordinary people do extraordinary things. Nevertheless, Shi Qi was truly unconventional. Once he finishes tempering his meridians with the medicine, will he proceed to the path of alchemy and physical nourishment? Pills and herbal medicine follow different methods, yet the fundamental pharmacological principles remain the same. If this boy has such an affinity for herbs, it is possible he is also a master of alchemy. I must never underestimate him again. If Shi Qi truly begins to practice alchemy, whether he studied for 3 days or created the formula himself, I need only maintain a stoic expression and declare my unwavering belief in his success. Once Shi Qi refines a top-grade medicinal pill, the entire Xuan sect will surely praise my eye for talent. Thinking this, Wang Xiaozhang could not help but chuckle deviously. Dong Zhen, standing nearby, looked at him with suspicion. Senior brother Wang, why do you have such a treacherous smile? Wang Xiaozhang waved his hand dismissively. It is nothing. I simply recalled something amusing. Others did not notice them, as everyone's eyes were locked on the situation below. After Lan Zhong stepped forward to clarify the situation, he vanished from the spot immediately, returning once more to the depths of the Taiyi Zhengsu to continue probing the issue of the deactivated gateway. With the departure of the Supreme Elder, the disciples felt the oppressive pressure finally dissipate. Immediately after, a flurry of whispers erupted. Good heavens! Using the origin of heaven and earth as the primary ingredient. Shi Qi is truly terrifying. The sect master himself cannot comprehend it, and he misled us all. Has Shi Qi ever studied herbal knowledge before? Surely not. Otherwise, why would he still be reading books? In other words, Shi Qi has reached this level in a mere 3 days. I had assumed he was merely putting on a show, but who would have thought his methods were genuinely fearsome? He is truly a celestial being incarnate, a reincarnation of a master alchemist. His technique of channeling the primordial violet Qi into the medicinal bath also provides a logical explanation for his previously incomprehensible actions. At the same time, a new question arose. With a top-tier prescription that uses primordial violet Qi as the primary ingredient and the formless root as the catalyst, what would the final effect truly be? Not only were the disciples curious, but even the elders were deep in discussion. This formula contains the origin of heaven and earth. Its medicinal efficacy cannot be measured by conventional standards. I estimate it will increase strength by at least 10%. Wouldn't that be a doubling of power? That is impossible. In the body refining stage, only during a few critical levels can one's strength truly double. From ancient times until now, it has never been heard that one could double their physical strength through external forces at other minor realms. An increase of 90% is more reasonable. To use a medicinal bath to nourish the meridians and increase one's power by 90%. This is unique under the heavens. If news of this were to spread, it would drive every major power into a frenzy. And what good would their frenzy do? The catalyst in this formula is the formless root, a spirit herb that has already gone extinct. The cauldron of medicine before us is the last of its kind in existence. I believe that with Shi Qi's talent, it would be no difficulty for him to compose another formula of the same grade. After much speculation, they ultimately concluded that the efficacy of Shi Qi's medicine would likely be 90%. In their eyes, this was already an incredibly high expectation. When he first entered the body refining stage, his lifting strength was 18,000 jin. Through cultivation and breaking through to the next realm, it rose to 33,000 jin. Even after his arduous training in Lifeng Valley, it only reached 54,000 jin. It was only through the special effects of the third level of body refining that he managed to double his power. For a long time now, across the 7 minor realms of body refining, the limit for physical enhancement has typically been capped at 10%. Since ancient times, no one has been able to exceed this, and Shi Qi was no exception in his previous 2 body refining stages. Coming to this third instance, everyone naturally assumed it would not succeed either. Yet, at this moment, Shi Qi remained immersed in the medicinal bath. With his eyes closed, he focused entirely on his cultivation, as the medicinal decoction boiled intensely to support his progress. The medicinal essence permeated his limbs and meridians. He did not merely clear his hidden veins. The primordial purple energy also transformed into a force that bolstered his meridians. By the 7th day, the once pitch-black decoction had become entirely transparent. Shi Qi felt that he was on the verge of a breakthrough. He slowly opened his eyes, and after adjusting to his surroundings, he leaped out of the cauldron and immediately made his way to the martial arts arena of Bai Kao Peak, preparing to test his newfound strength. The moment the disciples on Taiyi Zhenshu saw his figure emerging from the medicinal bath, they began to whisper brazenly, saying that it was truly like senior brother Shi to disregard decorum, for there was not a soul around the sect, yet why would he need to bother with clothing? Still, they remarked that his physique was excessively impressive. With such well-defined, robust muscles, he was truly a sight to behold. Meanwhile, the elders watched with great anticipation to gauge his true power. They saw his eyes flash as he grabbed a specially forged cauldron that he had never attempted to lift before. He hoisted it with both hands, before shifting to a single hand, lifting it high above his head, revealing that he still possessed energy to spare. This cauldron was forged from black sand profound iron, and weighed a staggering 230,000 caddies. Witnessing this scene, everyone on Taiyi Zhenshu stood frozen in shock. Liu Dao began to crack his knuckles as he calculated. Previously, Shi Qi's single-handed strength was 108,000 caddies. Yet now, having just broken through to the 4th level of body tempering, he could lift a massive cauldron of 230,000 caddies. Does this not imply that the enhancement effect of that medicinal decoction reached 120%? Hearing this figure, the sect master nodded in delight. Very good. Shi Qi is indeed worthy of being the prodigy of our sect. An increase of 120%, possessing 230,000 caddies of strength at the 4th level of body tempering. With such a profound foundation, his future is surely immeasurable. The inner and outer sect disciples broke into an uproar of amazement. But while Taiyi Zhenshu was in a state of chaos, Shi Qi had already returned to the main hall of Bai Kao Peak to bathe, subsequently finding a pristine set of robes for a true disciple in the storehouse. Once properly dressed, he clasped his hands behind his back. Although the medicinal bath was remarkably effective for body tempering, the formless root only blooms once every 2 million years. Thus, this decoction cannot be replicated. However, he still possessed the primordial qi within his body, which would suffice to nurture his meridians and temper his physique during his future cultivation. Since the herb garden was home to an abundance of spiritual herbs and flora, he resolved to utilize his profound mastery of medicinal properties, identifying rare treasures based on their pharmacological effects, and combining them with the flesh and blood of high-level spirit beasts from the Myriad Beast Peaks dining hall to craft culinary elixirs, leveraging his heaven-defying talent to stimulate the rapid growth of his life force and blood qi. In this manner, he could steadily surpass the 4th stage of body tempering. Having mapped out his cultivation path, he glanced at the brush and paper on his desk. Struck by an idea, he proceeded to transcribe the medicinal bath formula. He named the formula the Primordial Tao Guiding Decoction, sealed it within a jade box, and placed it in the most conspicuous spot on his bookshelf. Upon completing this, he gathered several high-grade spiritual herbs from the garden and made straight for the Myriad Beast Peaks dining hall. Seeing that he had left the formula behind at the 100 Herbs Peak, the disciples were moved by his actions, and praises echoed incessantly. Shi Qi's character is truly worthy of being a pillar of our sect. We were wrong about him in the past. Indeed, when we saw him recklessly pouring his contribution points into the spirit altar, we assumed his character was lacking. Looking back now, it is clear he was simply making the most of every available resource. The Primordial Tao Guiding Decoction. What an audacious name, yet its efficacy is truly worthy of such a title. Henceforth, the supreme meridian nurturing technique in the world shall originate from our Taiyi True Sect. The elders watched Shi Qi with expressions of profound satisfaction. Wang Xiaozhang, after reviewing the formula, was also invigorated. For in the notes accompanying the formula, Shi Qi had clearly stated that it originated from the 100 Herbs Peaks herb garden. This served as proof that Shi Qi held genuine affection for the 100 Herbs Peak. Once the news spread that the Primordial Tao Guiding Decoction originated from the 100 Herbs Peak, the world would surely be shaken, and as the Peak Master, he would undoubtedly reap the glory. The more Wang Xiaozhang pondered, the more delighted he became. Shi Qi is truly thoughtful. He has bestowed the fame of the world's premier medicinal formula upon our 100 Herbs Peak. As the elders discussed the matter with joy, Liu Daosheng suddenly spoke up in confusion. But Shi Qi, how does he intend to cultivate next? Why do I see him returning to the Myriad Beast Peak? As these words were uttered, everyone felt puzzled, save for Tongzhen, whose expression suddenly shifted drastically as he realized the implication. This is bad. He brought 3 10,000-year-old treasures to the dining hall. He intends to use my high-level beast meat as a supplemental ingredient to cook a top-tier delicacy to maximize the efficiency of his body tempering. Upon hearing this, everyone looked down in unison, and indeed, they saw Shi Qi guiding his flying ship toward the dining hall, heading straight for the storage room. Wang Xiaozhang, still riding the wave of excitement, laughed as he patted Tongzhen on the shoulder. Junior brother Dong, you must be a little more magnanimous. Shi Qi is on our roster, after all. Furthermore, he just made such a significant contribution to the sect. What harm is there in letting him eat and drink a little? Hearing this, Dongzhen let out a cold snort. You speak well, but you haven't seen just how voraciously this brat eats. Do you think you will escape unscathed? Shi Qi clearly intends to use aged heavenly treasures, paired with high-level beast meat to prepare his meals, and then utilize the digestion body refining method to temper his physique. But do not forget, he cultivates the Wuji Dao treasury. A divine technique of that magnitude requires at least 3 meals a day. Who knows how many heavenly treasures in Elder Wang's herb garden will be enough to sustain him? Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang was instantly stunned, imagining Shi Qi's extravagant way of eating and how he would likely deplete the entire herb garden's reserves. His heart trembled with agony at the thought of the loss. The elderly disciple from Tiangong Peak whispered to himself with relief. It was fortunate that the mountain he managed had little to do with body refining, so he remained unaffected. After all, blacksmithing is a matter of technique. The strength of the forge and the timing of the hammer cannot be mastered in a single day. Therefore, he felt certain that Shi Qi would never come up to Tiangong Peak to squander his precious materials. At this moment, Shi Qi had already prepared a pot of body-refining delicacy using the back meat of a 6-winged blood-ming beast, combined with a 100,000-year-old 9-star snow lotus. With earth flame dragon ginseng and jade marrow spirit ganoderma added to the mix, he could smell the fragrance and immediately ladled out a large bowl to consume. Combined with his innate talent for utilizing the body to its absolute limits, he felt his physical form beginning to grow stronger. As he resumed his training with the digestion body refining method, the people watching from above felt a wave of intense resentment. This fellow was pouring the entire sect's resources into himself alone, gorging on delicacies, and drinking nothing but nectar. Who could stand to witness such a sight? The disciples were practically salivating, and the elders stared in wide-eyed shock. Can high-level beast meat really be prepared in such a way? Dong Zhen swallowed his saliva repeatedly as he exchanged notes with Wang Xiaozhang. Based on Dong Zhen's extensive knowledge of beast meat, along with Wang Xiaozhang's analysis of the attributes of the various heavenly treasures, the two were ultimately astonished to discover that following Shi Qi's method could indeed comprehensively increase the efficiency of body refining. Just like that, the entire sect watched as he cultivated through his extravagant diet. By the fourth level of body refining, he maintained this standard for all 3 daily meals. His physical strength soared as a result. By the 3rd day, he could lift a weight of 270,000 jin with one hand. Yet he still felt that something was missing. Thus, on the night of the 4th day, immediately after finishing his dinner, he piloted his flying boat across the peaks. An hour later, the flying boat finally came to a halt atop a desolate mountain. Upon the summit stood a magnificent and ornate palace. A plaque engraved with the 3 characters Sanctus Palace hung before him. The body refining stage of cultivation emphasizes 3 pillars: diet, training, and sleep. Of these, sleep occupies a significant portion and is of critical importance. Currently, his configuration for diet and training had been pushed to the limit. The only missing component was the sleep regimen. He was not seeking a simple rest, but rather to utilize a bed crafted from precious materials to nourish his body while he slumbered. After pushing open the door, he discovered a circular bed carved entirely from jade on the 2nd floor. He first tested the texture, finding it as cool as jade to the touch, yet possessing a subtle, nourishing warmth that seeped into his skin over time. This discovery brought him quiet joy. The possessions of a sanctus were truly extraordinary, and it appeared he had come to the right place. At that moment, the exhaustion from a full day of cultivation washed over him. He laid down upon the bed, and immediately, a cooling aura spread through his form. It coursed through his limbs and veins, causing his tense muscles to relax completely. The blood and qi within his body began to circulate with newfound efficiency. He narrowed his eyes in comfort, unable to suppress a sigh of satisfaction in his heart. It felt wonderful. The treasures of a cultivation world were indeed incomparable. Yet the moment he performed these actions, the atmosphere within the Taiyi Zhengsu had long since erupted. A cacophony of envy, admiration, and resentment broke out all at once. The elders, for their part, maintained indifferent expressions. The sect master even smiled as he introduced, "This lad certainly knows his worth. This bed is crafted primarily from million-year-old jade, layered with 9 strata of snow silkworm silk as bedding, and the pillow is stuffed with ice soul orchids found only in the extreme north. To say nothing of the body refining stage, even a cultivator in the soul-severing realm could cleanse their marrow and strengthen their tendons by sleeping on it year-round." Hearing this, the other elders chimed in with laughter. After all, given that Shi Qi is on the list of the sect's most promising talents, the acquisition of resources from all corners is well within his cultivation rights. Besides, this boy has already been consuming the heaven-sent treasures of the medicine garden as mere side dishes, so what harm is there in using one bed? Only Liu Dao, who had wanted to speak several times, finally mustered the courage to probe. "Sisters and brothers, have you forgotten something? Our great Saintess Chao has not even entered the Taiyi Zhengsu yet." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression shifted. That is correct. Because the Saintess is in seclusion beneath Dragon-Slaying Cliff, she has remained within the sect. Previously, we ignored Shi Qi trespassing into her bedchamber, assuming there was no one else in the sect to witness it. But if she were to emerge from seclusion and discover a stranger in her bed, would she not strike Shi Qi down on the spot? After all, the Saintess does not know that Shi Qi has been added to our list of disciples. At this moment, Yu Xiao looked at everyone with a bitter smile, noting that Lingyin's seclusion could last anywhere from 3 to 10 years, so surely their luck would not be that poor. The other elders merely pursed their lips, remaining silent. While everyone was deep in thought, they noticed that Shi Qi below had already fallen into a deep sleep. For the next few days, his life was remarkably simple. He would wake in the morning to practice a set of 5 mountains true form techniques, then head to 100 Herbs Peak and Myriad Beast Peak to gather ingredients for his culinary pursuits, devoting the remainder of his time to cultivation, only returning to the Saintess's palace late at night to rest. Adhering to the teachings of the infinite Dao treasury, which emphasizes the balance between tension and relaxation, he would pilot his flying boat around the sect after his training sessions. It was not until this day, after concluding his practice, that he felt the blood and energy within him surging, nearing a resonance with his current cultivation realm. He estimated that he would be able to break through to the 5th level of body refining by tomorrow. Feeling elated by this, he steered his flying boat out for a tour after leaving the martial arts arena. As he flew toward Dragon-Slaying Cliff, he sighed inwardly, thinking that if not for the great calamity of heaven and earth, he would gladly spend every day in such leisure. Then, emboldened by the lingering effects of the wine, he recited a poem. Dong Zhen, listening from within the secret realm, heard his verse and could not help but offer praise. "Truly, A magnificent poem. Who would have thought that our great disciple was proficient in both letters and martial arts? Hearing this, the other elders applauded in appreciation, save for Liu Daojie, who watched with suspicion. Look at the direction that boy is flying. Is that not dragon-slaying cliff? Upon hearing this, everyone followed the trajectory of the flying boat and began to murmur among themselves. It is indeed dragon-slaying cliff. How could this lad wander there by chance? Will he not disturb the saintess and cause her to emerge from seclusion prematurely? That would be a good thing. Then we would have hope of escaping. But the saintess does not know Shi Qi, nor does she know he is a disciple of our sect. If she becomes guarded, or worse, strikes him down in a fit of rage, what then? Junior brother, you are worrying over nothing. Ling Yin is our Taiyi holy maiden, not some wicked demoness drenched in sin. Why does she possess such a murderous aura? The dragon-slashing cliff, as they call it, is the sacred ground for enlightenment within the Taiyi true sect. It is said that at the founding of the sect, the Taiyi Taoist lord battled a primeval true dragon for 10 days and 10 nights, ultimately slaying it here. After the dragon's blood stained the earth, this place was once shrouded in the lingering resentment of the beast. It was only after the Taiyi Taoist lord reshaped the land that the threat was neutralized. Through 10,000 years of cultivation, it has transformed into a blessed land of immense spiritual energy. Cultivators who break through their shackles here may receive the blessing of the true dragon's residual destiny. It is also rumored that those with great fortune may witness the lingering dragon shadow, and from it, gain insight into the supreme divine abilities of the dragon race. However, this theory has never been verified, and access to this site is strictly regulated. Once someone enters seclusion, the protective formation seals itself entirely. Since the puppet of the elders possesses no life force, it can neither enter nor awaken the holy maiden. But Shi Qi possesses an incredibly abundant life force and has the potential to be sensed by the holy maiden, so there is a chance that, after tonight, they may finally be able to escape this secret realm. At once, everyone watched with bated breath, silently praying that Shi Qi would succeed in catching the holy maiden's attention. At this moment, Shi Qi had arrived above the dragon-slashing cliff. After reviewing the records inscribed upon the stone tablet, emboldened by the wine, he began to critique the legend of the dragon-slashing cliff. Nothing but tall tales, he scoffed. The primeval true dragon is a grade 9 divine beast. Once fully mature, it is nearly invincible in this world. Our founder was a human who supposedly slew a member of the dragon race. How can I be expected to believe that? I have frequented the Tibetan Gold Pavilion recently to study the ancient texts. The books state clearly that the primeval true dragon is the absolute apex of divine beasts, possessing strength at the highest tier of existence. Yet, the tablet before me describes the Taiyi Taoist lord as someone who could reach the heavens and conquer the earth, capable of slaughtering even a true dragon. This is clearly an exaggeration. However, he reconsidered, acknowledging that for any sect seeking to bolster its reputation, they must inevitably package their founder as a legendary figure. Inflating one's history slightly is hardly a grave offense. Overcome by a wave of drowsiness, he steered his flying ship away. By the next day, he arrived at the martial arts arena, feeling entirely refreshed. At this moment, the blood essence and spiritual energy within his body resonated to their absolute limit. It appeared he was on the verge of a breakthrough. Contemplating this, he lifted the giant cauldron and swung it, preparing to guide this resonance to complete his advancement. Meanwhile, the elders watching from above looked despondent, as if they had lost their souls. This was because yesterday, Shi Qi had entered the dragon-slaying cliff, but he had only paused for a moment before departing, failing to draw the saintess's attention and leaving them bitterly disappointed. They could not determine whether the saintess had failed to notice him, or if some complication had occurred during her cultivation. At this moment, the sect master glanced at the heavy-hearted group and offered reassurance. Do not let your thoughts wander. Nothing could possibly befall the saintess within our sect. Yu Xiao also nodded. You have all remained within the secret realm for so long. There is no need for haste. For now, turn your focus toward Shi Qi. He is about to achieve a breakthrough. Hearing this, everyone directed their gaze toward the martial arts arena below, where they saw a massive surge of power descend as he swung his equipment. Afterward, he curled his lips into a smile, discarded the giant cauldron in his hands, and grasped a heavier, specially crafted heavy cauldron. After testing each one, he finally realized that his single-handed strength had reached 440,000 caddies. Witnessing this scene, the hearts of the inner and outer sect disciples trembled. At merely the 5th level of body refining, his single-handed strength had already reached 440,000 caddies. This was simply too extravagant. He had not even utilized the full potential of his technique, given the doubled effects of the 6th level of body refining. If he were to exert his full strength, the power of a single strike could exceed 1 million. Shi Qi also possessed a top-tier heaven-grade martial skill. The resulting power would be even more terrifying, and the more they pondered it, the more daunting it seemed. On the other side, the elders collectively applauded in approval. Not bad. With Shi Qi's single-handed strength metrics, an invincible foundation is already within his grasp. As long as he does not perish prematurely, perhaps in a few hundred years, our sect will once again produce a supreme, God-refining expert. The last time the sect had produced such a powerful God-refining expert was several 100,000 years ago. Yet Shi Qi's utilization of the body-refining digestion method, having reached its current level, had likely already hit its limit. The effectiveness of heavenly treasures, spiritual herbs, and spiritual flora would gradually diminish. Unless he could obtain the flesh of high-level demonic beasts with greater cultivation, it would be difficult for him to continue increasing his strength as rapidly as he had been. Shi Qi should seek a new path for his body refinement, utilizing medicinal baths to temper his meridians and elixir. The fire-tempering blood method and the cold water bone refining technique were already laid out before him, yet he had only managed to utilize a few variations. We shall see what Shi Qi chooses next. Beyond their praise, the others remained deeply concerned about his future cultivation progress. While he, however, had already mapped out a plan in his heart. Leaving the martial arts arena, he piloted his flying boat toward the alchemy hall of Bai Cao Peak. The moment he stepped through the main entrance, a notification from the system echoed in his mind. System detection. The host has arrived at the alchemy hall. Limited time check-in mission activated. Reach the highest floor of the alchemy hall within 3 minutes to be rewarded with a formation-breaking talisman. Upon hearing this, his brows arched, and a flicker of joy danced in his eyes. Seeing his arrival at the alchemy hall, the elders clapped their hands in jubilation. Shi Qi has finally seen the light. He should have relied on medicinal elixirs for his cultivation long ago. This child comes from humble origins, and surely has never consumed elixirs, leaving him ignorant of their miraculous effects. As the saying goes, a single supreme-grade elixir is worth 10 years of bitter cultivation. Old Wang, hurry and bring out your stored elixirs. Don't feel heartbroken later when Shi Qi consumes them in abundance. Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang smiled with complete composure. Am I truly such a petty man? They are merely elixirs. What is there to grieve over? Furthermore, are elixirs not refined specifically to be consumed by others? Once consumed by the rising prodigy of our sect, they have simply found their rightful purpose. Seeing him speak with such righteous conviction, Liu Daosheng unceremoniously exposed him. I wonder who it was back then that was stripped of an 8th-grade heaven-grade pill by the Holy Sun, and became so furious they demanded the sect master intervene on their behalf. Hearing this, a glimmer of embarrassment flashed in Wang Xiaozhang's eyes before he rolled them in retort. Can the current situation even be compared to that of the past? Zheng Yun is the Holy Sun, whereas Shi Qi is on the list of core disciples. Those on the list naturally possess the right to utilize all sect resources for their development. Moreover, my craft has now advanced, having ascended to the rank of a 9th-grade alchemist. So an 8th-grade heaven-grade pill no longer brings me the same regret as it did back then. Having spoken, the others nodded slightly in agreement. Liu Daosheng interjected once more. Junior brother Wang, what if it were a 9th-grade saint-grade pill? Would you be so generous then? Watching Wang Xiaozhang freeze at the question, Liu Daosheng pointed at him and laughed heartily. You see, whenever he faces a difficult question, he falls as silent as a stone. At this moment, a spark of realization flashed in Wang Xiaozhang's mind, and he waved his hand dismissively. Naturally, I would be willing to give Shiqian a 9th-grade saint pill. However, this pill is currently housed within a preservation formation. It cannot be brought down to the lower realm, and I lack the means to control the formation remotely. Even if I wished to bestow it upon Shi Qi, my hands are tied. Hearing this, Zhu Wuxuan calculated silently in his heart. Junior brother Wang has started feigning generosity again. He is not as straightforward as junior brother Deng, who wears his heartache on his sleeve. At least on the surface, he acts quite magnanimous. If the pill is kept within a formation, there is no way for Shi Qi to retrieve it, even if he desired it. Is that not what Brother Mo said? At this moment, the sect leader interrupted their verbal sparring and looked towards Zuo Qimo. Enough. Say no more. Junior brother Zuo, use the small beast to guide Shi Qi and retrieve the medicinal pill. Zuo Qimo cupped his hands to accept the order, but just as he prepared to intervene, he discovered Shi Qi rushing directly toward the highest level. His 5th-stage body-refining cultivation allowed him to move with such speed that he left trails of after-images behind. The little Qiang Qi behind him flapped its wings until they were nearly smoking, leaving Zuo Qimo drenched in cold sweat. He secretly wondered as he observed Shi Qi's path. How did it seem as if the boy already knew exactly where the pills were kept? Wang Xiaozhang also speculated internally. Could it be that there was a hint in the manual? As the two men contemplated the location of his hidden medicinal pills, Shi Qi reached the peak below. Following the chime of the system notification, the rewards were deposited into his system inventory, yet he paid no mind to it, instead staring ahead, completely stunned. In his heart he finally understood why the system had rewarded him with a formation-breaking voucher at this very moment. Before him, the area was cloaked in a purple light formation. Within the hall, thousands of medicinal pills floated in the air, with several ninth-grade saint pills hovering at the very zenith. Amidst his shock, he recalled the disciples of the great sect once saying they were accustomed to storing their treasures within the sect, as the sect was heavily guarded, and carrying them outside risked being targeted by pillagers. Yet, several suspicious points flickered in his mind. That does not add up. It is clear the entire sect has withdrawn. With no powerhouses left to oversee the sect, they should have taken their most precious belongings with them. To leave even the ninth-grade saint pills behind, what kind of situation could they have possibly faced? Or could it be that the entire sect did not withdraw of their own volition, but were instead forced to vanish? He quickly shook his head, thinking, why dwell on it so much? This world will meet its end in 3 years regardless. It matters not where they have gone. My most urgent priority is to cultivate and ensure I survive the impending great calamity. He then immediately utilized the formation-breaking talisman. The very next second, the blinding lights of the formation before him vanished, and he strode inside. The moment he witnessed the formation dissolve, Wang Xiaozhang's composed expression vanished instantly. What is happening? Why has the formation disappeared? Liu Daozhe burst into laughter right then and there. Junior brother Wang, this has become quite interesting. I wonder if the words you spoke earlier still hold true. If Shi Qi consumes your grade 9 sacred elixirs, you won't go running to the sect master in tears, will you? Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang turned red with stifled rage, finally managing to stammer out, I naturally keep my word. What does it matter if that dragon elephant bone refining elixir is consumed by Shi Qi? He is already on our sect's roster. If he isn't the one to consume it, then who should be? Hearing this, Liu Daozhe chuckled and cupped his hands toward him. Then I shall offer my congratulations in advance. Junior brother Wang. The elixir he painstakingly refined had served its purpose, having been swallowed by the one on the roster, Shi Qi. Just as Liu Daozhe had said, Shi Qi quickly located that grade 9 sacred elixir. As he stood beneath the elixir, it descended of its own accord into his hands, and the information contained within the jade slip surged into his sea of consciousness. This elixir is named after the dragon elephant, for it seals within it a wisp of the primordial dragon elephant's essence. Upon consumption, it allows a cultivator, in the body refining stage, to vastly strengthen their physique, making it an exceptionally rare elixir for tempering the body. Just as he prepared to consume the elixir, the system's voice echoed once more. Ding! Detected that the host is surrounded by elixirs, activating special golden tier reward. Mastering the craft. A transcendent attribute. Upon your 100th attempt at alchemy, a successful refinement is guaranteed. Hearing this, Shi Qi was stunned, and an idea quickly took shape in his mind. If I were to use the most common grade 1 elixirs as fodder, and wait until the 100th attempt to switch to a supreme grade pill recipe, then even the legendary grade 10 divine elixir, as long as it aligns with that 100th furnace opening, would be guaranteed to succeed. Furthermore, during the body refining stage, one can consume elixirs below the 7th grade at will, but elixirs of the 7th grade and above can only be consumed once. Indulging in too many would cause medicinal toxins to accumulate in the body, which would be detrimental to one's foundation. Originally, he intended to consume this dragon elephant bone refining elixir to advance, but now, possessing the heaven-sent gift of 100 refinements into elixirs, he had to weigh his options with great care. With this thought, he placed the dragon elephant bone-forging pill back in his hand. A 9th grade saint pill was indeed impressive, but a foundation forged by a 10th grade divine pill would truly open up a vast new horizon. Now that he possessed the talent for 100 refinements, he only needed to acquire the 10th grade pill formula and the necessary materials to succeed. He turned and descended the stairs, beginning to search through every level for the pill formulas. Seeing this, the elders watching within the secret realm were somewhat bewildered. What is Shi Qi doing? If he is not consuming the dragon elephant bone-forging pill to temper his physique, why is he heading downstairs? Is he intent on turning junior brother Wang's residence upside down? Junior brother Wang, what treasures exactly does your alchemy hall contain that have piqued Shi Qi's interest to such an extent? Are you concealing something precious? At this moment, Wang Xiaozhang looked at him with an equally troubled expression. The moment he saw Shi Qi pick up the dragon elephant bone-forging pill, his heart had leaped into his throat. Although he knew he would have to surrender the pill to the other party sooner or later, it still tore at his heart. Only when he saw him set the pill down and head downstairs to look for other items did he breathe a sigh of relief. No matter how one looked at it, Shi Qi had chosen to abandon the pill himself. He had refused it, not the other way around. Thinking of this, just as Wang Xiaozhang was about to speak, Tong Zhen nudged his arm. Senior brother Wang, Shi Qi has stopped. It seems he has found what he was looking for. Quickly, look at what this room contains. Hearing the question, Wang Xiaozhang narrowed his eyes and looked down. This is where the pill formulas are stored. Within, there are the prescriptions I research daily, as well as the works of the alchemy hall's predecessors. But why has he come here? However, No sooner had he finished speaking than his expression darkened. Liu Dao also gasped in shock. They saw that Shi Qi, now on the 3rd floor of the alchemy hall, had discovered 29 jade slips containing 10th grade pill formulas, and then he locked his gaze onto one specific jade slip. Within those was the 10th grade pill formula suited for the bone forging stage, the Chaos Undying Physique Origin pill. To refine this pill, one must utilize primordial chaos energy and 6 types of divine materials, then place them into an alchemy furnace forged from chaos stone, and temper them with the 9-turn yin-yang true flame for 10 days and 10 nights. Furthermore, the pill's efficacy is utterly terrifying. It not only ensures that the 9th stage of bone forging possesses a strength of 1/600,000 caddies, but it also grants the heaven-defying effect of infinite physical tempering, a growth-type property of acquired origin that is exceptionally rare. Having examined the introduction, he proceeded immediately to the 5th floor of the alchemy pavilion to gather the necessary materials. For him, the success rate was the least of his concerns, yet within the storehouse, he could only locate 5 of the required ingredients, leaving him missing only the true dragon's reversal scale. This item, however, was the most critical component of all. From the body of a primordial true dragon, a mature specimen of such a creature is practically invincible. It is unlikely that anyone could possibly obtain it. Just as he was deep in thought, a glowing object streaked rapidly across the sky above the storehouse. He focused his gaze, his heart leaping with sudden, wild joy. Was this not the true dragon's reversal scale? Who would have thought the Taiyi sect was so formidable that they could even secure a divine artifact of this magnitude? It appears the records on the stone tablet were accurate after all. The Taiyi Taoist venerable truly must have slain a true dragon in that place. He was indeed an impossibly domineering figure. After taking stock of all the materials, he let out a sigh of relief. Everything was prepared. It is truly destiny that I should be the one to refine this divine pill. Meanwhile, as he inspected the materials, those observing from the Taiyi void became increasingly bewildered. What on earth is Shi Qi doing? First, he ransacked every floor, only to find an alchemy manual and rush into the storehouse. Could it be that he intends to practice alchemy? Upon hearing this, Liu Daoji let out a cold laugh, once again steering the conversation toward Wang Xiaozhang. Regardless of what Shi Qi is doing, the one thing the alchemy pavilion does not lack is medicinal pills. I suspect that even if he were to consume 8th grade heavenly pills like candy, with junior brother Wang's magnanimity, he would pay it no mind. Would you not agree? Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang's eyelids twitched, and Deng Zhen hurriedly stepped in to mediate. Senior brother Wang certainly would not mind, but the matter we should be discussing now is, what exactly is Shi Qi doing? Hearing this, Liu Daoji ceased his remarks. The sect master fixed his gaze on the alchemy pavilion below, and inquired, Junior brother Wang, do you recognize which alchemy manual is recorded on that yellow jade slip? Wang Xiaozhang cupped his hands and replied, reporting to the sect master, I have only observed the outward appearance of the jade slip, and cannot discern the contents recorded within. However, judging by the few materials he retrieved from the storehouse, the alchemy manual within that jade slip must be for the Chaos Indestructible Body Origin pill. This pill is a 10th grade divine pill, intended for the body refining stage of cultivation. Upon hearing this, the elders' expressions turned peculiar. Could it be that Shi Qi intends to refine a 10th grade divine elixir? An elixir of such caliber has not emerged in this world for millions of years. Not only does this type of elixir require exceptionally rare materials, but the difficulty of refinement is immense. Furthermore, as the environment of heaven and earth has shifted, the success rate has continued to decline. Although Shi Qi once performed the miracle of creating his own prescription nurturing techniques, refining elixirs is far more difficult than researching prescription theory. Thus, it is highly unlikely he will succeed this time. Suddenly, Liu Daoji exclaimed in surprise, as Shi Qi walked into the alchemist hall's study to browse the books on alchemy. Everyone turned to look, only to see him sitting amidst a room full of bookshelves, leafing through an introductory guide to alchemy. The corners of the various peak masters and elders' mouths twitched. They instinctively recalled his past behavior while sitting in the herb garden. The sect master shook his head slightly, but this time, he did not speak with certainty, instead turning to look at Wang Xiaozhang. Junior brother Wang, you are the professional here. Do you believe Shi Qi has the capability to refine a 10th grade divine elixir? Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang instinctively started to shake his head, but remembering how he was humiliated in front of the crowd at the herb garden last time, he firmly nodded instead. From the professional perspective of one who has practiced alchemy for 3,000 years and has ignited the furnace millions of times like I have, refining a 10th grade divine elixir for Shi Qi is as simple as flipping one's hand. As soon as his words faded, the elders and disciples were frozen in place. Liu Daoji laughed and patted his shoulder. Old Wang, you truly grow wiser after every mistake. I'm only joking. There is no need to be so tense, is there? The sect master also looked at the junior brother surnamed Wang in disbelief. Stop joking. There are many disciples listening here. However, Wang Xiaozhang cut him off with a solemn face. Senior brother sect master, I am as certain about Shi Qi as I am about my own alchemy. What kind of person is he? Such are the matters. This statement was spoken by the Supreme Elder, and it is something you yourself have acknowledged, senior brother. I hope you remember it. Hearing this, the sect master felt as if 10,000 horses were trampling through his heart. Oh, junior brother Wang, I only use that phrase to smooth things over. A mere novice has only just begun to touch upon the art of alchemy. You, a 9th grade alchemist, dare tell me that he is certain to refine a 10th grade divine elixir? This matter is fundamentally impossible. For a moment he found himself utterly speechless. The other elders, seeing Wang Xiaozhang so resolute, began to waver in their own convictions. In the blink of an eye, the crowd erupted into a cacophony of discussion. Once the outer disciples heard Elder Wang's assessment, most found it preposterous. Yet there were still many who worshipped Shi Qi, firmly believing that he would surely succeed. As for Shi Qi, after spending a day and a night frantically scouring through books, he rushed straight to the alchemy chamber. With a single movement, he instantly drew the gaze of everyone present in the secret realm. But when they saw him standing before the cauldron, retrieving several familiar herbs, they all wore expressions of realization, followed by collective astonishment. These are the ingredients for a first-grade spirit recovery pill. It seems senior brother Shi is not as reckless as we thought. He did not attempt to refine a 10th-grade divine elixir the moment he arrived. He intends to test his skill with a low-grade recipe first. A spirit recovery pill is exceedingly easy to refine. With the natural talent affirmed by Elder Wang, he could likely succeed even with his eyes closed. The elders watched with bated breath as Shi Qi ignited the earth fire and cast the ingredients directly into the furnace. Liu Daozhe looked over at Wang Xiaozhang with curiosity. Junior brother Wang, what do you make of this batch from Shi Qi? Wang Xiaozhang offered a confident, faint smile. It is difficult to see clearly from this angle, but for you to ask such a question, senior brother Liu, is truly to underestimate him. Shi Qi is the one I have identified as capable of refining a 10th grade divine elixir. A trivial first-grade spirit recovery pill is, naturally, as easy as turning over one's hand. No sooner had he finished speaking than cries of shock erupted from the side. He looked down, instantly frozen in place. Thick smoke billowed from the alchemy chamber below as ingredients sprayed out from the furnace, transforming into ash and scattering across the floor. Shi Qi had truly caused the furnace to explode. Along with the roar of the blast, a wave of questioning voices immediately surged forth. What is the meaning of this? Can any senior brother experienced in alchemy provide an explanation? Is the spirit recovery pill really that difficult to refine? Is it not something one could do with their eyes closed? This common elixir is found everywhere. Is this the top-tier alchemical talent that Elder Wang spoke of? If this is what qualifies as a genius, then surely I could do better myself. Wang Xiaozhang, meanwhile, wore a look of utter bewilderment. The sect master immediately spoke up, asking, Junior brother Wang, have you discerned anything yet? Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang pursed his lips, pondered for a moment, and decided to cling stubbornly to his initial stance. He replied calmly, Shi Qi is refining pills for the first time and has yet to grasp the proper methods. Surely, it will not explode next time. Having said that, he looked down with a firm, unwavering expression. Below, Shi Qi was coughing violently as he scrambled away from the alchemy furnace. After dusting off his robes, he let out a long sigh. It seems I possess no talent for alchemy at all, but that is of no consequence, for I have my own cheat. The previous 99 attempts were merely for amusement. After composing himself, he stepped back into the alchemy chamber, prepared to begin a new round of refining. Those watching from within the secret realm peered down in anticipation. They saw him solemnly toss the ingredients into the furnace. His technique strictly adhered to the requirements laid out in the formula. It actually looked quite professional. Wang Xiaozhang nodded in satisfaction. Just watch. This time Shi Qi will surely display his true prowess and show everyone what a genius truly is. But before he could finish his sentence, a deafening boom echoed from below, and the entire alchemy furnace rocked violently under the force of the surging energy. Seeing this, Lu Dao was left stunned, exclaiming, A true genius indeed. To cause a 5th-grade furnace to explode while refining a 1st-grade pill is truly unprecedented. Dong Zhen could not help but advise, Senior brother Wang, perhaps you should let it go. It is possible that Shi Qi was simply never meant for the path of alchemy. Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang's stubbornness flared up once more. He loudly retorted that he did not believe he could be mistaken. Good things come in threes. On this 3rd attempt, Shi Qi will undoubtedly succeed. But the moment his words fell, a massive cloud of black smoke billowed up from below. Seeing this, countless disciples stood agape. Incredible. Is this the legendary top-tier alchemy talent we have heard so much about? To explode 3 furnaces in a row while refining spirit recovery pills, that is truly unheard of. What on earth is Shi Qi actually doing? I understand now. Elder Wang is simply playing a prank on us. In reality, Shi Qi is a genius at exploding furnaces. In a certain sense, exploding 3 furnaces in a row while refining spirit recovery pills. The difficulty is hardly any less than refining high-grade elixirs. As for Wang Xiaozhang, he remained defiant. A true genius does not dwell on momentary setbacks. Only through rigorous tempering does one's true character emerge. These 3 measly failures are of no consequence whatsoever. If you are so capable, let Shi Qi refine 50 cauldrons in a row. Otherwise, do not claim that I judged him incorrectly. Hearing this, the elders sighed in unison. Even the sect master could no longer bear to watch. He wanted to offer a reminder, but it was not appropriate to speak in front of everyone. In the end, he could only suppress a sigh. He decided to observe a little longer. In such an awkward atmosphere, every member of the sect, from top to bottom, stared wide-eyed, watching Shi Qi continue his attempts and failing one cauldron after another. By the time night had completely fallen, he had refined until the 50th cauldron without success. Yet he showed no signs of fatigue. The outer sect disciples, however, were already exhausted from watching. Everyone concluded that he possessed no talent for alchemy. No matter how stubborn Elder Wang might be, this was an undeniable truth. The situation for Wang Xiaozhang was equally dire. He was screaming frantically in his heart, "Shi Qi, what on earth is wrong with you? In the past, when I said you were writing poisonous prescriptions, you created a miracle, did you not? Now that I call you a genius, you fall into an unstoppable decline. Is it truly the case that the man matches the outcome? Hurry up and perform a miracle, will you?" The other elders, seeing his face turn pale, felt a secret pity in their hearts and ceased mentioning the matter. It was not until the moon rose higher that a loud shout suddenly echoed through the secret realm. Dong Zhen was seen pointing excitedly downward. "Senior brother Wang, look quickly. It is the 99th time. Shi Qi has finally successfully refined the spirit recovery pill." As soon as those words were spoken, Wang Xiaozhang felt even more bitter. To take 99 attempts to refine the most elementary spirit recovery pill was proof enough of how abysmal Shi Qi's alchemical talent truly was. At this moment, Liu Dao cast a cold look at him. "Junior brother Wang, do you still believe Shi Qi is an alchemy genius capable of refining 10th grade divine pills?" Hearing this, Wang Xiaozhang no longer argued. He let out a long sigh. "I was mistaken about Shi Qi. He has no talent for alchemy." This news spread rapidly throughout the secret realm. Every disciple became aware of it. While the majority of the disciples could only feel regret, just as the crowd was reacting in various ways. Shi Qi, down below, made his next move. He was seen excitedly clutching a heap of materials, heading straight for the alchemy room within the inner hall. Witnessing this, everyone stood stunned. Having just refined a first-grade spirit restoration pill, how could he be attempting to refine a 10th-grade divine pill in the very next furnace? Recovering his senses, Wang Xiaozhang immediately shouted, "Stop him at once!" The ignition array on the chaos cauldron is extremely difficult to control. If he fails to master the intensity of the flames, he will be blown to smithereens. Upon hearing this, the sect master's expression turned icy. He had not expected that refining a 10th-grade divine pill would be so perilous. He quickly turned to Zuo Qimo. "Junior brother Zuo, quickly see if you can use the little beast to stop Shi Qi. Tell him not to act rashly." Seeing this, Zuo Qimo hurriedly attempted to contact the little Chongqi, but alas, he was a step too late. By now, Shi Qi had already cast all of his alchemy materials into the cauldron. The array within the chaos cauldron detected the presence of materials, and the ignition array activated instantly. At this sight, everyone felt a pang of despair. After all, they had been observing Shi Qi within the secret realm for many days, and had even begun to cultivate him as the successor to the sect. To say they felt no attachment would be a lie, but since he insisted on refining the pill so recklessly, who else was there to blame? Yu Xiao turned his head away, unable to bear the sight. However, a long time passed, and the explosion they expected did not occur. He opened his eyes, only to find the elders staring down in complete bewilderment. He followed their gaze downward, and saw Shi Qi intently controlling the cauldron's formation, showing not the slightest sign of losing control. After a long silence, someone finally gasped, "How can this be? He was actually able to control the chaos cauldron and that white flame. It was the true sunfire, a substance so potent that anything ordinary would be incinerated upon contact. Refining elixirs with this flame is akin to walking a tightrope. The slightest deviation would reduce the ingredients to ash. Yet, he appears completely at ease. Could this truly be the same Shi Qi who suffered 99 furnace explosions?" The disciples were utterly bewildered, and the elders were equally unable to comprehend the sight. As Wang Xiaozhang marveled at Shi Qi's technique in controlling the cauldron, he suddenly noticed the true sunfire inside the furnace flaring with violent intensity. Just as a furnace explosion seemed imminent, Shi Qi's hand made a subtle turn, utilizing his spiritual energy to manipulate the flame suppression formation. In that instant, a blue flame, imbued with the cold energy of the Grand Yin, erupted upward, replacing the true sun fire in the blink of an eye, and completely filling the alchemy furnace. With absolute focus, Shi Qi commanded the true yin fire, while the medicinal essence within the cauldron slowly merged amidst the intertwining of ice and flame. Just as the elixir was nearing completion, the entire alchemy hall trembled violently. The grand void of the supreme unity was finally being forcibly breached by the three supreme elders. As the entire sect watched, Shi Qi remained unfazed, casting the final spell seal without haste. When the lid of the cauldron opened, a beam of golden light surged straight into the heavens. The 10th grade divine elixir had manifested, flying out of its own volition, transforming into a golden dragon that circled in the air. The supreme elder clapped his hands and laughed aloud. Exquisite! Those 99 explosions were not failures, but rather, you used them to comprehend the Tao of yin and yang, in mutual harmony. Shi Qi gathered the elixir into his palm and looked toward the entire sect, who stood in stunned silence. The hope for survival amidst the heavenly calamity does not lie in the elixir itself, but in the clarity of the Dao heart. As he spoke, the elixir shattered, transforming into a myriad of golden rays that merged into the bodies of every disciple present. This is the true elixir I sought to refine, a state of mind that allows the entire sect to experience a breakthrough. From that day forth, the Supreme Unity sect began a new legacy, while Shi Qi found a purpose far greater than merely saving himself. The path ahead had